It is the closing day of Blizzcon here at the Anaheim Convention Center, and we're hot off of yesterday's quarterfinal matches here at the HGC Finals. For those of you watching online, thank you so much for being here with us. And for those of you in the house, we have got a lot of work to do today. We're shifting our matches from best of threes to best of fives, and I'm going to need your help to make sure we give these teams the credit they deserve for all the skill and commitment they put into this incredible game. I'll be your host, Kevin Michael Johnson, and of course the story for today is Korea versus Europe. I believe it's safe to say that by the end of today, we'll be able to settle that open question of which region truly is the best. We'll start things off with our first matchup. MVP Black will take on Team Expert, and then we'll follow that with a rematch of last year's grand finals at BlizzCon. Ballistics from Korea taking on EU's Fnatic. And of course, we'll close the day with our grand finals where we will crown a champion. I'm excited to be here with you. Are you guys excited? Fantastic. Well, these teams are playing for the right to claim to be the best, for regional pride, and of course, a whole lot of cash. Let's head over to the desk and check out Kylaris and the crew to get this day started.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Very excited indeed as we have day number 2 of BlizzCon for the HGC 2017 finals, and 3 previous world champions and 1 contender head into the round of 4. To my left-hand side, I'm joined by Wolf, we have Jay Howe, and we have Grubby here to kick things off. But first, of course, we had yesterday our round of 8 conclude. We had some varied results that not a lot of us expected, Jay Howe, with some crazy surprises in the mix.
Yeah, North America showed up yesterday, and I think that they kind of stumbled at the finish line. They couldn't quite close it out, but the better teams prevailed in the best of 3. The one thing that stands out to me, it still feels like despite all of the games, the best of 3s, it just doesn't feel like the meta has fully formed yet. And I really want to see how that plays out today.
I feel like we're going to see a lot more stability in terms of draft today with North America out. They were really the big outliers going into this. The other outlier, I think, being MVP Black, the only team that's really prioritizing Ana right now. So I think that's something to really look forward to today, is if they continue that trend.
Going to be a lot of cool and interesting things that went into yesterday with a lot of, as you know, Jay Howe's mentioning, there was a lot of kind of cheese plays, a lot of attempts to kind of trick people out, but in the end, the tricks weren't really that successful in a full series sense.
But I think it's an absolutely great idea to use these one tricks in a best of 3. Do it twice and you will actually advance. It's not as hard in such a format. But, you know, the thing that stands out the most for me from yesterday is that there was a lot of success story for some of the North American teams, but also a lot of grief. Because I feel like their first maps that they won, for the most part, they were quite fundamentally solid. And in some of the later drafts, in some way, they had some kind of mental breakdown. Right. And they didn't need to go that route, I think. So as much as we say, like, oh, you know, NA plays, you know, different strategies, what have you.
Yeah.
I don't think it was needed. And I do think NA did show up to play, but there was also, of course, disappointment, as there always is with competitions.
Well, that whittled it down to 4 teams here for the HGC 2017 finals. And just in case you missed yesterday, we can rewind time just a little bit and get you up to speed with what happened. So, of course, it will be Team Freedom going up against MVP Black, where Team Freedom looks to find opportunity here, going up against a former world champion, where most people would feel a diverse and difficult task ahead of them.
The age is being used right away on Kier. Here is the performance of Souls. He dives towards the back line.
Ragnaros on the other side, going for the Molten Core. Rich trying to cut off the path of retreat, but Tist is in a little bit of trouble. Here comes the Soul Forest match. Everybody on the side of Team Freedom is already low, as we see once again HGC going down just seconds before he has Smosh available.
And more members are low for Team Freedom. Divine Shield will be used. Reset is kiting backwards. Rich here to carry him in his arms. Turns around with the big Soul Fierce match. Will land on top of Dansky. He's getting lower and lower. Finally, he will fall. Collusion, the only member left. Never mind. Everyone's down. Team Freedom falls.
As much as he can. He might get away here, but no. Illusion confirms the kill, and now Tis might be in trouble too.
Team Freedom makes a moment happen for them here. They're going for Tis. The combo comes out. Dragon Blade being used like Map Lights. Will go ahead. You come with the Souls. He's hitting everyone though. They're getting low. Team Freedom has 3 kills. Can they get a 4th? Socket! He will fall. Kyoto, the only one to leave, but they don't care about him. Let's go Soda Boss.
ETC is down, and here comes the Void play once again. They're going in, the silence hit the isolation, but it's Freedom who's low. Freedom about to lose Chromie here, and that's not the only hero that goes down. Genji dies as well. He's going for the team. Freedom is losing game number 2 as the Korean team takes the series with a 2-0 victory and moves up to the semifinal. And we can see that right in front of us as Team Freedom throws everything at them. But the coordination that we have on the side of MVP Black is just too much to handle.
Of course, Team Dignitas will go up against Team Expert as old teammates here on the Blizzcon stage are going to be reignited as enemies.
But Leoric is sniffing it out. Ethereal will be too late here. He tries to go for it. He's trying to buy time. Ethereal is being attacked. They're going for Leoric. He moves back out and he dies.
No, he turns around with the punch. He's turning around here. Baker's getting low. Finally, he will fall. Collide with Dignitas' core. 12-5.
Oh!
Nick moves in, and he stuffs it. Oh, how do they survive here? Team Dignitas is holding here. The core continues to fall 60% down to 50. Bad Benny landing a storm ball. It's going to keep snitching the backside. JPL jumps forward, but it's not enough. Team Expert, they get the first win of the best of 3 series.
Tracer is down at 5 versus 4, but Dignitas finds themselves on the run as Leoric is still at the top.
JPL, he's gonna fall.
my
New York,
God.
he's channel in the top left corner. If he gets this channel, he'll be able to take the game here. Zalia's about to fall as well, but the 5-shot come in. Team Expert has stuck New York, and they have gotten the victory over Dignitas.
So it's EU going up against NA here as Tempo Storm is hopeful about their chances against the world champions.
They're channeling.
They're channeling.
Wubby has to stop it.
If they get this channel, the game is over. Breeze ends up going down.
Ronin's going soft. Hits another polybomb. It's Ronin to grab Wubby. This is going to be Tempo Storm's game. Tempo Storm will win a game. Game 1 over Fnatic.
Tempo Storm bringing it here in game number 1. Swinging. I have no idea. You hear the crowd. USA.
I hear the crowd.
They are so behind Tempo Storm.
Psalm and Fury go in on top of Fnatic. They've got Wubby though with Tormented Souls, and Kerrigan is blown up.
They get themselves Kerrigan. They find the Sonya immediately after 87% exists onto the core. But Fnatic, they're not going to aggress over quite yet. Lock down the bottom keep. And now it seems like they are done. They are ready to send Tempo Storm back home. Fnatic showing why they are one of the best teams, why they are your reigning champions.
Roll20 looks to pull into their bag of tricks against a Ballistics who understands the threat of North America more than ever.
We see Jungkook trying to go in. The knockback is there. Power slide follow up, and Jungkook goes down. The Immortal, it goes down. 30.
25, and it's going to go down. Roll20 Esports will take out Ballistics in game 1. There's going to be shots in the top. A dragon hits Justin.
Will Buds be able to silence these shots to remove them from the core? The pressure in, the damage there, and another kill for Ballistics. They are unrelenting here. All it takes is one altar for the members of Ballistics. Dahaka is going to go ahead and start this bottom channel. And if there is no interrupts, doesn't matter. Zeratil's got it. Ballistics is going to be able to take this here in dominant fashion over Roll20, 2-1.
Ballistics will move on through the quarterfinals and join Fnatic in the semifinals, making it a rematch of the grand finals of BlizzCon last year. Both of these teams, Fnatic and Ballistics, feeling like they're going to a grand championship position, the championship tournament for the first time, but only one will be able to go on to the grand finals.
Emotions were riding high in day number 1, as you could see at the very end there. A bit of a brutal blow to Roll20 at the very end of the day, but it all kind of fell apart for them going up against a team like Ballistics, who was very, very powerful in that series, Grubby.
Roll20 took the first map, but then the experience and the power of Ballistics shone through as they adapted and widened up to Roll20's plans and were able to take that series back 2-1.
Yeah. let's check in with the prize pool to see exactly how much is on the line. Not only the title of becoming a world champion, but also $1 million in total. All of these teams today have already secured themselves $75,000 here on the stage, and now they're looking to contend for $200,000, or of course that $500 first prize. So much on the line. I think we do believe that this is the biggest prize pool in a Heroes tournament of all time so far. So there is no short change here, Wolf. It's very, very important for them.
Yeah, I mean, MVP Black, for example, with this top 4 finish, they've actually themselves earned over $1 million as an organization in Heroes of the Storm. Winning this would bring them to $1.4 million. I think that's one of their big goals, and making this prize pool so great is for MVP Black, who a storied organization, has got to feel amazing. They're so close to basically breaking more and more records in terms of prize earnings.
That's funny. Earning $1.4 million is one of my personal goals too.
Nice.
But think about what it means for Expert. We look at theirs, it's probably doesn't reach the same stature as MVP Black. I said it yesterday, this is life-changing money for some of these people, especially the newer guys on stage.
It definitely is, and I believe, Grubby, you're about 90% there with your esports history, right? So you're doing all right. Let's check in with the bracket, see exactly how things are going down throughout the day, as well as what happened yesterday, as we previously showed you. 2 0s and 2 1s yesterday, with the top half of the bracket being a bit more solidified for the teams going through, whereas the bottom half was a bit more shaky. That results in 4 teams left. MVP Black, a world champion. Fnatic, a world champion. Ballistics, a world champion. And Team Expert, contenders to those thrones, Wolf.
I mean, you look at this bracket, I feel like MVP Black looks to be the most dominant team, still the only team not to drop a map. Ballistics dropped a map yesterday, so when you're looking at Korea specifically, Black seems to be the more dominant team, is running a newer meta, and I think that Ballistics could certainly be upset tonight if they don't tighten up their play, because yes, they showed adaptation yesterday, but I think you're going to have to come out of the gates with a good plan prepared.
And it comes back to those best of 5s being a bit more solid, especially for these teams that do consider themselves world champions.
When you look back at mid-season brawl, one of the things that the Korean team struggled with was a little bit of EU flavor that we had. And Expert, I said it yesterday during the matchup of Expert versus Dignitas, is that they're very similar in their play style, but I think it gets a little bit different when we talk about Expert and what they like to do differently. So I think the potential is there for Expert in this matchup. So while Black does look dominant, could see a surprise early today.
We'll see. Let's check in with the schedule, as we do have the rundown completely of which of our matches are going to be coming along, and then obviously the grand final at the very end. You couldn't really do that before a semi. That would be a little bit weird. So we will have later Fnatic going up against Ballistics. But our first match to start things off is MVP Black going up against Team Expert. And Grubby, we've seen that for Expert actually trumping, Team Dignitas yesterday as well as they did. It was a little bit up in the air. How was that going to go out? Because we'd never seen them on land setting, but Expert came out to play.
Yeah, I mean, Expert right now, they're 6-2 in the tournament, beating Dignitas 2-0, improved upon their 4-2 group record, and, where they lost to Ballistics for that match. So Expert, I would say they're definitely the 4th most likely team to win this tournament, just in my opinion. I think Black is probably the most favorite, Ballistics, and then Fnatic and an Expert. But they are here to play, and they already made one upset beating Dignitas.
Yeah, I feel like this is a David and 3 Goliaths story for Expert. But when you look at it, I mean, every single team in this top 4 is an exciting storyline. The rematch of last year's Blizzcon finals in the semis. We could have that Fnatic Black rematch of the semifinals last season. And you have this story for Expert who upset Dignitas. Maybe they could be the first team to take a map off of MVP Black. And I feel like no matter which way you look at this top 4, it's a very exciting semifinals.
Yeah. Not only exciting, to me, this is the most compelling Heroes tournament we've ever had. It was always preached about for the longest time. The HGC League that kind of came into play this year has basically changed the landscape of Heroes as we know it. A team like Team Expert last year, they would get together for the regionals, come in, they wouldn't quite get there, and then like, can they break into the top 3? And now we see the cohesion of what a league can do to bring up the stature of all the other regions that kind of lack that structure. And now we've got players, and I talked about Nick all day yesterday, I'll talk about him today until this man leaves the tournament. The development of this player alone, and Bad Benny, players like that, to have this development in the league structure, it really changes the game here, I think, at this tournament. I for one, am extremely interested.
Well, we're almost ready for our first best of 5 here to start off the round of 4. Team Expert, the challengers, goes up against the might, the empire that is MVP Black.
상황에서 스포츠를 만나면은 정말 하나의 변수가 일어났다고 생각해요. 에스포트가 디그니를 잡을 거라고는 생각을 많이는 안 하고 있어요. 잡을 수 있다고 생각하는데 디그니가 상대적으로 세다고 생각하고 e스포츠랑 스크림을 많이 해봤어요. 저희가 그래가지고 만약에 e스포츠가 올라오면은 디그니보다는 상대적으로 쉬울 것 같아요.
에스포트는 저희가 연습 때도 많이 상대해봤는데 그렇게 특별히 힘든 그런 팀은 아니고 약간 그들이 갑자기 변칙적인 그런 걸 좋아하기 때문에 저희가 그냥 평소에 하던 대로 하면은 그들은 저희가 쉽게 꺾을 수 있을 것 같아요.
작년 블리즈컨 경험상 역시 여기는 서양 땅이다 보니까 서양 쪽에 대한 응원이 많은 것 같고 그렇다 해가지고 딱히 큰 문제는 될 것 같지는 않아요.
Okay, so the crowd at Blizzcon is completely different than anything that we had before in other tournaments. At Blizzcon you have a lot of people and they're also like very enthusiastic about what's happening.
So we're in the semifinals now, playing against MVP Black, and a lot of the teams are saying that it's the hardest matchup or whatever, but we're actually feeling pretty good going into them. We've had good results in practice against them, and we feel we can take them down. I think the difference in skill is not that much as it's been in different events, so it's going to be really interesting to see what upsets can happen and how the teams will play against each other.
Ladies and gentlemen, help me get this day started as we introduce from EU in the red corner, Team Expert! And on the blue side, none other than Korea's MVP Black! Captains, please. Good luck, gentlemen. Kalaris, let's get this match started.
Yes, indeed, my friend. All three of the European teams before this tournament began made the pilgrimage to the mecca of esports that is South Korea. And from that, the whispers on the wind were that Expert was able to accomplish the most there. How will that stack up going up against MVP Black here in a best of 5? That's the big question coming out of this. Wolf, what do you think?
I mean, you look at a team like MVP Black, such a storied team, 7 premier title victories in this storied history. This team has played since the beginning of Heroes of the Storm, winning tournaments people probably don't even remember. But this team has won so many titles, and they're facing off undefeated, by the way, in HGC Korea. Haven't dropped a single series, dropped only 3 maps against the number 3 seed from Europe. We talked about the David and Goliath story here, but I think people would forget that Expert actually has players that have such a rich history as well. Players like a Thorough Angel, the original great Tyrael player we saw back in 2015. ADRD's been a staple of the European scene for a long time. But I think the experience of Black here is going to be very difficult to overcome.
And somebody to point out that Jayhao brought up prior is Nick, a player that for you on Team Expert has been standout throughout the tournament.
He's been an incredible standout player. Everything that he does, it seems to work really well for their team. The KDA on the Tracer there doesn't even do justice to what we saw in the game yesterday. He was just played so incredibly well. He's got that diverse hero pool that kind of fits the, if we need Mage style, we can go that way. If we need to get a Genji in there, we can go Tracer. By the way, when I researched all the Volley players, guess what? He's at the top of the list. This guy, we haven't seen the Volley yet. When you need those heroes, he is on those heroes, and he does so incredibly well. I'm glad we were able to pull that up because he has impressed me. The matchup, we talk about Rich a lot, right? And I want to see Rich versus Athero, but Reset versus Nick in this series, like, that gets me hyped, man. I'm ready for this.
And Nick definitely delivered yesterday against Dignitas on the Tracer. Very key part of winning that game. I'm very excited here, Clarence, about the different styles. Been researching the draft, you know. I'm always interested to see if these teams study only their results from this tournament of each other. What do they think? What do they know? Yeah. And we see these really cool trends coming out with MVP Black barely banning support at all. Expert barely banning support at all. Okay. Out of a total of 16 bans, only 2 were support bans. Then you look at MVP Black, and they have 9 supportive bans if you count Abathur out of their games of only 12 games. So there's a very different style here going on, but they do prioritize the same heroes. Tracer, Reset, Nick, and Muradin, Rhaegar. So their draft looks very similar, but the bans are completely different. And they know this about each other. You know, they're going to do this research. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in this best of 5.
Well, the HGC universe can join in with all the festivities going on here for the HGC 2017 finals as well by cheering for which team you think is going to be victorious or the one that you just care the most for. It's up to you, really. It's your choice. We're trying to approach the 28 million mark as we're currently at 27,606,730. Easy peasy. Well played, HGC universe out there. Good stuff rolling on in. And looking at how this stacks up, we mentioned it before, it's best of 5 format. So that kind of changes things up. This is probably one of the best opportunities for us to really see how flushed out the meta has been between these teams.
If we want to talk real talk, I think if MVP Black is going to lose this tournament, even if they win this match, I think one of the reasons why they might lose this tournament is because Expert pushes them to the brink in their drafting, forces them to show things that they haven't shown so far. They've hidden a lot, I think, in their draft at the moment. So if Expert can actually force them to show their hand a little bit, maybe if they make the grand finals, it's going to get a little bit tougher.
There's something to be said about the interviews that we saw, and that it feels like Expert is already in the heads a little bit of MVP Black. We saw 2 players on that team both say, we know they're going to do something different. We know they're going to do something different. And when you have to be on your toes and react to potentially some very strong, different strategies, you're not, that's why I said the little EU spice, you know, it's in their head right now.
Well, let's find out which battleground we're going to be going to for game number 1 in this best of 5. And MVP Black will take us to Tomb of the Spider Queen. What do we make of it, boys?
Well, first of all, we have to talk about the Warhead ban. Totally standard from MVP Black. No surprises. But the Sky Temple ban from Expert, very intelligent as well. Allows them to play that European safe late game where they don't get snowballed in the early game that Black loves to do on Sky Temple. So I think these bans are fantastic on both sides in terms of what they were looking to do here. Very much a comfort ban for Black. But Tomb, let's see how this one pans out.
All right, let's get into it. The first best of 5 of the day. These teams have already won $75,000, but the winner of this best of 5 moves on to the grand final and at least claims themselves $200,000. MVP Black goes up against Team Experts.
Right away, I feel like we've seen so much Tracer play. Normally flexing over to Thero on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Wonder if this might be a Tassadar ban who does contribute to the wave clear. It's a safe hero for ADRD. Or just take away Nick's Chromie and get rid of that.
Yeah, big threat always in terms of denying turn-ins on this map. When you prioritize a battleground like this, obviously that's something you are going to be concerned about. MVP Black's always been an objective-based team, meaning that rather than team fighting or trying to out-macro their opponents, they try to focus on the objective. And we're going to see Tracer Morales come out here. Not a surprise from MVP Black. They love that extra sustain that Morales can give for the Tracer in that 4-man rotation, and it's very powerful.
So now, with Tracer being on the side of MVP Black, Team Expert probably has to consider either a Tassadar pick or a Tassadar ban. And MVP Black's draft was very fast, so they anticipated for this scenario. We knew that the preferred warrior and support for either team are Muradin and Rhaegar, and they'll generally draft those first, with the exception of Tracer. You'll pretty much not see any assassins from either of these teams the whole tournament so far, except Tracer, in that first half of the draft. There was one exception where Expert took an early Genji. But pretty much for the rest, it's all supports and warriors in that upper half. Now, Expert needs to decide, do they go with Tassadar or not?
I'm glad you mentioned that because I actually feel they should go into a potential Rhaegar here. They end up going both. I actually like this a lot for the sole purpose of now you take away one of those because if you only picked one here, you can only ban out another. You give up the potential Rhaegar, you give up the potential Tassadar. Now I would actually like to see them move into an Ana ban. That was going to be the next part that I was talking about is that you take away that because Morales can be played by Sake or Kyocha and it's normally Sake and they try and do the 3-2 split and in this instance, now they can control the support meta of MVP Black because that's literally them in a bubble with Rhaegar, Morales, Tassadar, and Ana right now.
Yeah, I think the Ana ban is very situational though because this could just be a hyper carry Tracer. We've seen it in Korea so many times where you don't necessarily want to use the Ana with Tracer because Ana Boost isn't going to do as much for the Tracer here. So I don't know if that's necessarily required here, but I really like the priority of wave clear because when MVP Black runs these zeros, especially on this battleground, it's about that wave clear and sustain in the format where you end up hitting that turret ammo, wearing it down, getting that lead, which allows you to zone out the turn-ins. Going back to that Chromie ban, that is what Black wants to do on this map. Out sustain in lane, push, 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 get that advantage with the minion waves, take those turn-ins.
Now the funny thing is, if Ana is a ban, Ana generally gets paired up by Black with either Sonya or Ming. And if Sake is on Morales, then he's not on Li Ming. I put reset on Li Ming, that's possible. But you could also see a Sonya ban here at this time.
I will say what scares me a little bit about going into the TAS Rhaegar is that there's not any real pulse bomb protection outside of the shield, which is on a longer cooldown than it used to be. So Tracer has those 8-second windows essentially that you can go in. You obviously got the shield time as well, but you have those windows that you'll have. So the Tracer player at this level will be trying to pick those up. So again, with that, the Rhaegar are very susceptible to that. No self-ancestral, things like that.
So there's a few pocket bans, a few pocket picks for MVP Black that come out pretty much in the last pick of the rotation of the draft. Zeratul, Ragnaros, Malthael, and pretty much Malfurion as well, who's kind of sneaking up in the top win rates of heroes that get played a decent amount. So Ragnaros ban takes care of one of them, and arguably the most important one, considering it's Tomb of the Spider Queen. And like you said, Wolf, objective-based play here, MVP Black, it would suit their style really well to defend those Web Weaver turn-ins.
Yeah, I think this Dahaka ban is really interesting because Black has flexed into double DPS only very recently at the end of HGC Korea, for example, with the Falstad pick, like we've seen from Quagnix in the past, right? So I think this ban on Dahaka is trying to like threaten Expert, like watch out, what if we actually take a global on this map? We're going to see Johanna, who has an abysmal win rate in this tournament, by the way, picked up here now. And this kind of feels like somewhat of a soft ban on Nick's Greymane here. It can block a lot of the damage he's taking. And again, it goes back to that wave clear. This format with Malfurion, Johanna, Morales, like, you can't out-sustain that with the draft that Expert currently has. Even with Psystorm, even with Rhaegar, it's going to be very difficult to win that rotation.
And I'd like to see the Greymane here. I think Vala is a safe option, but again, the protection style that you have there with Tracer coming in, Greymane has a little bit higher health pool, can go into Worgen form, get the armor, things like that. But again, the shields are going to have to be very timely, and generally Vala, you kind of use it on cooldown to make sure she gets the heals, get that self-sustain out of that. With Greymane, it's more of a pick-and-choose style, and I think they can adapt to that, but they've got to make that decision, and I think it's a tough one right now because the last pick on the side of Black, very open on what it could be.
Yeah, we have that flex roll for Rich there in that final position. Some of those pocket picks of melee assassins. For now, Expert is going to choose their final two. A very solid draft so far. Li Ming, Greymane, the classic quintessential draft by Team Expert. Versatile on every side, and it's going to be Zarya. So we have the hyper support composition here. Zarya, a warrior, but with shields together with Morales and Malfurion. This is a pretty heavy emphasis on the Tracer, but don't forget about Malfurion. 7 wins, 3 losses, highest win rate hero of any hero that got played 9 or more times.
Yeah, and Malfurion does allow you to do a lot of things. You can pair this with a Blessed Shield, his silence there. You can pair this with a big Condemn. But what I really like about this final pick of the Zarya is it gives you such massive pushing power, and I think that's what Expert is really going to struggle with. They struggled against Ballistics when Ballistics played this slow, patient style. They kind of got poked out. They got chipped out of the game, grinded out essentially, as they just kind of had to sit back blow for blow because Black is such a safe team. It's going to be tough to find openings with this, but I do like that they bring in the second damage here, Li Ming, which lowers the power level of Johanna's blinds.
But that's the thing that is I guess a little bit confusing to me because I think for MVP Black, they snap blocked that, but I almost think that was in response to the Li Ming. Zarya does really well against burst damage heroes. Oh, you're going to throw out this big arcane orb? Thank you for the energy. Outside of that, you generally don't get much energy if it was to be the Vala or something different, but the burst style really contributes to Zarya play here. I don't know if that would have been the pick had Li Ming not been on the other side.
Probably. So. I mean, there were some other options, but Rich was a little bit target banned. You know, Ragnaros, the Haka, they were already gone. One more cool thing to say is Zarya can interrupt the pay station really well with basically infinity grenades. So there is a lot of control over both the objective and you have that infinity unbreakable push style that MVP Black can now employ.
You talk about energy, I think a lot of the energy is going to be coming from cannon towers more than it's going to be coming from anything in the early game. So,
well, gentlemen, we are ready to head over to our commentators for this best of 5. So without further ado, the round of 4 begins here for day number 2 for BlizzCon.
The final day here at BlizzCon, and it's getting exciting. But before we start here, Caldor, I got a bit of a gift behind you if you want to go ahead and take a look.
Yeah,
we got
thanks
this
a lot.
Murky back here. First picking it. Got some hopefuls. You like that?
Yeah, but we didn't have them for Murky first pick just yet. But I wouldn't put it past Expert. They have always been a bit crazy. In this game, on the other hand, the surprise pick came more so from MVP Black.
Well, let's go ahead and go into it. Game on number 1 here as we move into Tuma Spider Queen. MVP Black taking on Expert. It's going to be a good one here. A lot of teams, a lot of people thinking that MVP Black is going to walk away with this tournament. But Team Expert, they've already shown they're willing to mix things up for a lot of teams.
They played fantastic just yesterday against Team Dignitas, but today we have to the left side a very different beast. It's Saka on Morales, a reset for the Korean team on Malfurion, Tist on Johanna at the front line, Kyoja on Tracer for the damage output, and Rich on Zarya. Ladies and gentlemen, MVP Black!
On the right side in the red, Kirsten will be playing Rhaegar, becoming the one trick of the entire tournament. Bad Benny playing Murden. A Thorough Angel on that gray main. Gonna be following up ADRD playing Tassadar. And Nick will be playing Li Ming. Give it up for Team Expert.
So already a couple of changes. We're heading into our first game of the best of 5 here. Now, first of all, Bad Benny is taking a bit of a page out of the book of the Koreans on Murden, going straight into the perfect storm for the stacking progress. Now, they are supported by 2 supports here, of course, so that makes it for Murden a little bit easier to mitigate some of the damage. You're going up against the Tracer, so you're very unlikely to head into block, which is another reason why we see them with the extra blower potential. Trying to lead the charge with a good Storm Ball, the extra damage that comes through perfect storm then later on, and Li Ming and Graymin, of course, attempting to finish off the target.
Yes, it will be. Kyoja going to be going for that pulse break at the level 1, looking for those extra pulse bombs to come in, try and blow up targets that come their way. It's going to be very helpful against the double support that you mentioned earlier. If you can get a target blown up, in particular the Li Ming, the Greymane, or the Rhaegar, MVP Black will start off a fight well. Bad Benny already missing Storm Bolts, but look at Rich on the bottom side, building up the energy and pressuring the bottom lane.
Another talent that we actually have here is for Tassadar. Templar's Will is taken, and especially when you're looking at the European side, most of the time we're going to spec into the storm just to make sure that the Psy Storms later on, you have the extra radius, you have the extra damage, and that really helps you to soften up these targets, and it works, of course, fantastic with Wave Clear too, which is super important here.
Team Expert going to be showing off that different level 1 on the Tassadar, but so far our lanes are looking pretty solid as we have Li Ming in the top side just poking away as she can. It's really the story of that bottom lane, and Team Expert, they're answering back by trying to trade out kills in the middle lane, yet they have not had the chance to get a pickup. MVP Black knows their priority is the bottom lane and breaking down turrets.
I mean, the biggest question here is definitely how can Expert measure up against MVP Black in a tournament environment. We talked a lot about them making their way over to Korea for the bootcamp. It was really interesting to hear Reset earlier talk about how he feels that they are doing really well against Expert in scrims, because we heard exactly the opposite from Saka, who told us we really struggle against them. We have a negative win ratio against Expert, and they always surprise us with the priorities they have in draft. So it's pretty interesting to see that both of the players on the side of MVP Black kind of contradict each other a little bit here.
Dad, on top of that, Bad Benny yesterday, after their win against Dignitas, that big 2-0, he was already talking about how he was ready to face MVP Black because of that reason. They knew that they could take them on because of scrims. The question is, was MVP Black holding back in scrims, or they have secrets here that they're ready to show? Look at Rizzo, he's in trouble on the bottom side, and Zarya gets picked up as Team Expert. They find the first kill of the day.
Expert with the first kill here, taking down Zarya. Very well played here too. Bad Benny zoning the entire time and holding the storm normal and back for a bit longer. So Black at this point a bit more defensive, and Kyoja in particular has to be very careful on Tracer here, since the bot lane is being pushed heavily. Athero, of course, on Greymane, always using the opportunities he has to put the extra damage on the structures. And overall, Expert is actually doing really well, breaking through the wall at the top too.
Yeah, it's actually a common strategy when you see a Zarya pick on the other hand. Team Expert is doing their best to find her isolated and pick her off, especially after she uses a shield. Curson getting picked in the middle lane, though, on that Rhaegar, and Athero might be going down as well. Tiss will be able to hit the condemn, but luckily Athero is able to get out. Bad Benny needs to sneak away. Here's a root. He's low, but he finally hops to safety.
Pretty close call there for sure. The cooldown just coming back in time. Great route from Malfurion in particular, locking him down as he is trying to escape behind the gate. And in the meantime, Li Ming is still doing her thing at the top lane. But what we can see in the middle is really just Rich pushing through with Zarya right now. And that is that siege up style that Black wants to play here.
It's an early game advantage of having a Zarya on your team, especially with the Tracer and the Morales. You can consistently top off, make sure you're good to go. You have the shield to pop in to get the extra damage, and you're looking to just break down the turrets to get an experience advantage. Now, Team Expert getting that kill on the other side, tried to offset off, but MVP Black with the kill on Rhaegar still having that lead, moving towards level 7, and finally even getting a turn in. This is where they could start to run with this game.
Exactly. In the perfect world for them, they would now heavily siege up on a lane, take down the fort, take the lead in experience, snowball it towards level 10, and put even more pressure onto Expert than in the long run, denying them a turn of their own. So Expert is going to try their best to somehow mitigate that. And they already took a camp, and quite in time, this is going to help with the defense in the mid lane quite a bit.
The mid lane being defended here. Main priority for Team Expert. They already have Greymane on the side and Rhaegar as well to deal with the offset lane, so they should be fine there. MVP Black just needs to decide, do they want to commit to the idea of pushing down the middle lane? And so far, with Zarya being here, the foundation for this team, they're going to stay in this area. In fact, Kyoto's going in for a kill. Bad Benny's getting low. He's cutting to the side here. Nick will take the pulse bomb for his teammate, and Bad Benny will survive.
Bad Benny still in play here, but the push is continuing, and MVP Black is getting closer to taking down the first fort of the game. So this is going to give them a huge boost in experience, already hitting level 8 here. Expert trying to defend as best as they can, but the push is just a bit too strong.
Looking pretty bad here for Team Expert, a full level behind. They did defend, of course, their bottom and top lane. Might need to get down there as we have Zarya heading towards that area, but still, things are not looking too good for MVP Black, especially if a second fort goes down here, if they push in here and get a kill on Bad Benny.
That's absolutely insane that with the first turn in, you're already trying to take down the second fort here. That usually is, this extremely rare here, especially on the level that we are looking at right now.
Yeah.
But Expert, on the other hand, even with the loss in infrastructure, they are still kind of close in experience. Now, MVP Black hasn't walked away with too much of a lead just yet. It's roughly half a level. That's something that Expert can still play around, especially if they manage to move in for a turn and before level 10 hits. The one thing they have to be careful about is that they don't time the turn in so that MVP Black hits 10 and can easily defend against the Web Weavers, whereas Team Expert just doesn't have the ability to push in since they can't rely on heroics yet.
Yeah, that window is actually closing pretty quickly. MVP Black was actually willing to not push that fort in all the way on the bottom side to make sure to deny that turn in from Team Expert. And now that window is pretty much closed. Team Expert shouldn't try to go for a turn in, try to relax here and move towards 10 themselves to just play safe. Ooh, they're actually going in for a kill here. They jump on Kyoja. He'll be able to dash backwards and be safe for now.
Benny is in a bit of trouble here now, though, since he has just used his cooldowns, but that's just not enough on-point damage output for MVP Black to really capitalize on it. And we just saw insane KDA on the side of Bad Benny, the tank player for Team Expert, sitting at 50 right now, which is insanely impressive. At this point, though, we have MVP Black making their way towards level 10. In an ideal world, they would try and use that to get the second turn in and then snowball off the second objective.
Well, the only 2 gems off. There they go. Finally get them here so they can go for that turn in. They're dropping off on the top side. Team Expert are trying to catch one target, maybe on the bottom side if they could surprise their opponent, but they have to be careful. If they don't get the kill right away, they have to back up. Because Kyoja and crew, they're coming in for a fight.
Yeah, same time, Expert still waiting for the 10. They don't get it. Bad Benny in trouble, trying to hop out. Doesn't work. He gets a shield, but he's in a world of pain here. Goes down just before level 10 hits. Can't rely on Avatar, and that is MVP Black walking away with another kill. And they immediately seize the opportunity to take down another fort.
And there goes that KDA, just like that. We're going to catch Bad Benny on the bottom side. 10 finally will hit here for Team Expert, but MVP Black has a window here to turn in, and they will do so. Second Web Weaver turn-in of the game goes over to MVP Black, and they're going to be looking for that third fort on the top side.
And at the same time, though, we have Curse Bullet taken by Ethereal, so already highlighting that they're really trying to blow up a target super fast. We've been talking a bit earlier about how Bad Benny is trying to get these stacks together for Perfect Storm. He's currently sitting at 14 hits. And so we are roughly 11 away before he completes his quest, but already a bit of an extra damage output if they connect with a Stormbolt.
Stormbolt, Curse Bullet, great targets here, especially if they can catch Zarya when her shield is down. Team Expert on the side does get caught with the Graviton Surge. Going to be hit with a Blessed Shield as well. Kyocha dies for it, but Nick is able to slip past the wall and be just safe.
Kyocha is not afraid of anything here. Like, he pushed the envelope so much here, just going deeper and deeper, trying to get that kill. In the end, he wasn't successful, but it was still a scary moment. And we still have Expert trying to defend here. They lost every single fort with the exception of the top lane. That's where we see MVP Black headed right away. Greymane has to defend the bot lane. In the middle, the towers are nearly broken. So MVP Black is just absolutely controlling this game so far.
I mean, look at the comp for Team Expert. Why would Kyocha be scared? If he dodges a Stormbolt, the only major fear is Greymane jumping on you, but without go for the throw being chosen, the kill potential is actually quite small because it's all skill shot based at that point. If Kyocha is able to maneuver around his opponents, he'll be completely safe, especially with Zarya, Malfurion, and Morales keeping him alive.
Yeah, and especially when we're talking about the main damage dealer being Tracer, I think it's also the main reason why AD already switched the build on Tassadar, because he wants to be able to get that damage on the single target. Seems to be one of the main reasons for the adjustment. We have him at the same time now also sacrificing some damage since they didn't go into Archon but used Force Wall instead. So it's all about isolation here. MVP Black has the 13, they go for the boss, but Experts feel pressure to move in and contest it anyways.
Bad Benny having a hard time in that front line with 5 chasing here. Ancestor Healing will connect with the Pulse Bomb coming afterwards, so Bad Benny's back to quarter health, while Greymane was pushing on the bottom and the middle side. The Web Weavers are coming in for Team Expert, so they have successfully stopped the boss, and they got a turn in here. Now is where they can strive for 13.
That was actually huge for them here. So first of all, they made sure that MVP Black doesn't get the boss. That's already incredibly important.
Big win.
And then they got the Web Weaver wave. They are still not in control of level 13, so that's a bit of a problem for them. So they have to be careful with the push, but they at the same time also need to break down some infrastructure to close the gap in experience. And that's what they're going to try and do. Once again, here comes the cleanse. Bad Benny is in a bit of trouble the entire time. He's anchoring for his team all the way at the front, but he is heavily attacked by MVP Black in every single skirmish.
That he is. They're getting low. Kyocha going forward. Bad Benny jumps away. Still trying to chase for him. The Pulse Bomb will connect. He'll use Avatar to stay alive, but Team Expert, they are bruised and battered. They need to back up and get away from the Web Weavers and MVP Black defense.
But at the same time, Black is investing so many resources and so much time to try and force these team fights. So they leave the lanes alone, which allows the Web Weavers to push even more. And we see the result here at the top lane. The fort is about to fall. They can snipe it at any point and gather the experience. And let's not forget, the entire fight happened on MVP Black having a talent advantage. So from Expert's point of view, that can be considered as win as long as they don't lose a hero here.
Ooh, and you can see the potential from them. They try to go for Johanna and get her low. Bad Benny continues to take the front line, but he's fine. He's a dwarf. He can take this aggressive damage from the end. He turned around. They're going for reset. He used Ice Block earlier. Finally going to be using it now. And that is going to be a reset. Walking away. Pulse Bomb does connect, and a Thorough gets out. That Ice Block just came up because he had used that a minute earlier.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even before the Ice Block was actually activated, it looked like he would fall for sure. I loved how Bad Benny just jumped the wall here, and they said he was in trouble, actually, and they said, okay, we can still take this. So Malfurion tries to get the Twilight over the wall, but they sniff him out and go for him, but they can't confirm the kill, and that was absolutely insane that he was able to get away there.
Series getting very close between these two teams. If you remember yesterday, Team Expert against Dignitas, they were in a spot where they were massively behind, but they are calm and collected and can find a way to come back at any point. MVP Black needs to be aware of this and be slow with their movement. Kyocha has to find these kills he's looking for.
At the same time, though, we have Templar's Will for Tassadar on level 1 now completed, so he has also the extra range. We are still 5 hits away from Muradin completing his Stormbolt quest, but of course he has now already another 100 damage on those hits, and he's trying to confirm them against Kyocha, which is pretty difficult, but if he gets that one hit, the team will follow up immediately.
Immediate Curse Bullet. Nick coming up with the Li Ming damage. That's going to be a dead Tracer for sure. The level 13 there for Tassadar, you're talking about it, the nullification is really, really important there. Making sure to be able to use that around the Tracer. And also, the Blessed Hammer getting picked up here for Johanna.
Yeah, definitely just changing the build up a little bit. So far in the tournament, we have seen a variety of builds on Johanna, but Blessed Hammer now taken on level 13. The Blue Web Weavers coming down once again. Team Expert, they had the amount of gems they needed, but they could not control the turn-in points. and MVP Black is looking to take down the first keep as they push in with the Web Weavers, and they will also hit level 16 at the same time.
This is very scary for Team Expert. Bad Benny still not even finished that level 1 quest. Kyocha's going in for Nick. He misses the pulse bomb as Nick will sidestep it. Team Expert turns around and they'll try to clear out these Web Weavers, but they're already hitting the keep in the middle.
Expert is doing a fantastic job staying alive in these fights. Their problem is that they just lose through the objective. Black is easily pushing in and taking the first keep, and Expert is desperately trying to hold on, hit 16, and then at some point force a fight, but they haven't really found the opportunity yet.
Well, they do lose out in the keep on the middle side, but Greymane was able to defend the top lane, so they can put all their efforts here on the bottom and defend the lane being pushed in. MVP Black shouldn't be able to get a keep here unless they get a pickoff, but they are pushing in as a unit of 5, hoping to use this talent advantage to their advantage, and they move on in. Here's a pulse bomb going straight on Bad Benny.
Yeah, Bad Benny once again survives here for now. So far, only 2 kills for MVP Black. Expert is just losing infrastructure after infrastructure. The Dwarf hops out once more. The problem for Team Expert is really they need to get another wave. They need to take down these forts to close the experience gap. And so far, MVP Black just doesn't allow that. They control the map, they control the turn-in points, and they go in for the kill. And this time, they are likely to get it. There goes Greymane. He is down, and MVP Black with 2 keeps gone might make the play for the core if they get another kill.
Yeah, this might get worse here for Team Expert. ADRD is able to get away, and so is Bad Benny, but suddenly the core is being assaulted here as MVP Black is grouping as 5 and pushing in. They'll have catapults here soon as well. They get through the armor. 15 seconds till Greymane pops up.
Expert desperately trying to somehow defend this, but MVP Black is on the core. The potential kill against Rich not happening. Kyocha in trouble. Ancestral comes out, but Tracer is gone, and Team Expert with a 77% on the core is trying to turn it around, trying to get the second kill, and they do. Morales is dead.
Team Expert will defend, but they are still not 16, but they do have a turn-in available for them. Can they take the 16 and push forward and break open the map finally?
Boss, they can make a play for Boss here. They can go for the objective. They need momentum now. They have level 16. It's finally there, and they need to use that opportunity.
They try to go for the kill here on Rich, but Rich does a really good job here of staying alive thanks to Morales Sake on the back left side. But the problem is Kyocha goes a little bit too far for it. He gets picked off, and then Sake is in a position where he's all by himself. The Stormbolt connects, and that'll be the death there of Sake, leading to the 2 kills. And now we go straight to the boss, which is now being assaulted here by Team Expert as they look to burn it down and get a turn-in.
Yeah, they need to definitely stack the 2 now, and they need to gain momentum. They have 2 lanes that are pushing against them. It's the only chance they have here. 16 gave them more damage potential with Mirror Ball on Li Ming, and we also have Greymane with Alpha Killer. They need these snipes. They need to go for these insta blow-ups against the front line of MVP Black, confirm an early kill, and snowball it from there. They're so far behind. From a structural perspective, they need to make sure that this push with the boss, with the objective, at least gives them 1 keep.
The checklist is very hard here for Team Expert. They have to deal with the push in the middle. The mercenary camps coming in. Finally, they do clear that out, but they're not able to help Assault on the top side. Push in there and try to break down that keep wall. So they'll have to scoop up in the middle lane here and try to open up the forts. Things are looking pretty dire here for Team Expert with MVP Black having all 5 up.
But they push the lanes out, so they have a bit of potential of pushing here. They see Malfurion at the top. Web Weaver is going to come down there, so at some point, Black needs to send someone top to defend the lane. Greymane making his way into the mid lane right now. Expert is looking for that kill, and the extra range on the jump from the Dwarf is going to help them here. Nick gets the shield, denying the Tracer kill for now. But once again, here comes the force wall. Expert looking for an opportunity, but Black playing it extremely safe.
Kyocha trying to build up into another pulse bomb. Team Expert realizing this has to pull away here, especially with them not having a Web Weaver. They run to the bottom side.
They need to get more. They need to get more at this point right now. They haven't taken the fort in the mid lane. They need more experience. MVP Black is too far ahead. You can't give them the 2 lanes here. If there's no kill for Expert, it's going to be a very rough game from here on out. Since MVP Black is still a level ahead, they will still hit 20 before Expert is even close to it.
Black knows this. They play safe until they clear the Web Weavers. Then they turn around and drop a busted shield. Bad Benny will get focused. Ancestor Healing will connect. Bad Benny trying to turn around here for the kite. Wants to go in for the fight.
Tracer nearly dying, but Kyocha survives. Once again, they're going for a Thero. Here comes Bad Benny. No hit points, no mana, but he wants to save his teammates. And Thero goes down. A great grenade on the side of Morales pushes him back in. And MVP Black with a double kill against Greymane, against Muradin, and they drop Li Ming as well.
ADRD takes a dirt nap. He'll fall there. There's 4 members down. Only Rhaegar is left up. MVP Black charges straight towards the core here, and they're looking for the first win in this best-of-5 series. They'll drop a pulse bomb, and everyone will hit the right click.
Black going straight for the core. Fantastic first game by them here, controlling the objective, controlling the turning points, and not leaving Expert any opportunity at all. As MVP Black goes for the core, drops it, and takes game number 1 in the best of 5 series here in the semifinal.
MVP Black comes out on Tomb of Spider Queen, gets an early advantage, and takes that small advantage and runs with it. Hits level 10, gets a couple turn-ins, and takes Expert, who is a slow, methodical team in this tournament, and just completely puts them up on top of their head.
It was all on Kyoja with 70,000 damage that he just put out. And even though Expert really tried to take him down, they could never really pull it off.
Having a really hard time there. Team Expert is going to go down here to MVP Black 1-0 in this best of 5 series. Let's go to our host and our analyst here as they talk about the match.
An intimidating start by MVP Black here to get things going on Tomb of the Spider Queen, because realistically, they looked solid. There was no real weaknesses, no real moments where Expert could get in there and try and kind of pick their composition apart.
I feel like this just goes back to everything we said in the draft. They have wave clear, they have pushing power, and it was really just, I mean, a Team Expert with the shield up, taking blow by blow all game long. They had 2 turn-ins, they had 2 potential moments to get back into the game. As Calder highlighted, they didn't do enough. I think Thorough Angel had a very bad game of Greymane as well, finishing his cocktail build, I think, at 1640 in that game on Tomb against a pushing composition. Very late finish there, some positional mistakes, and Black does not mess around when you make these sorts of positioning mistakes.
Well, you know, he was the split pusher. It was his role to try and create split map pressure, to try and stop this big 5-man from bulldozering down the mid-keep. And I think that's probably why, you know, the cocktail can't get stacked this fast. But it's indicative here of the problematic, you know, game approach here for Expert, because Expert actually ran this kind of unbreakable comp before with Tyrael, but they did it on Dragonshire against Ballistics, and they lost with it. And that's because Dragonshire is one of the most split maps. 3 different lanes that are all very important. Whereas on Tomb of the Spider Queen, the lanes are so close together that this kind of unbreakable comp is very strong. Now, they picked this early on, Tracer Morales, and MVP Black actually ends up making Morales look really broken. And then, finally, you have this Murden Tassadar Rhaegar by Expert, and then they had a choice. You have to deal with Morales, and then you have to deal with Johanna Malfurion. So, like, how do you get to Morales? Focus Morales, right? But they go with the double backline, Li Ming and Greymane. And so, this is like a heads-up approach. It's not something like Hook, it's not something like Deep Dive, like Kerrigan. It was a good draft, but I'm actually shocked to see how well the Black draft performed.
The whole thing about it is this is their preferred battleground. If you look back at first picks at other large events, this is what they like to first pick on their map. That and Battlefield of Eternity are their 2 priorities. And as we talked about yesterday, when they went against Team Freedom, it was a matter of, it's kind of hard to cheese it up a little bit, get those odd strategies coming out on a map like Tomb of the Spider Queen. So Team Expert will have an opportunity as we move forward. Again, it is a best of 5. So putting a lot of weight into that first game, I'm not quite there yet.
Grover, some standout moments.
Yeah, mostly we see the macro play, bulldozering down with an unbreakable comp, but there's 2 cool little moments that I would like to focus everyone's attention on for a little bit more. As we go into the game and we see there was this really cool thing that Nick did as we roll it at 1x speed. Bad Benny gets in danger, and we look here, and Nick is on purpose blocking the pulse rounds that is going to come on Bad Bunny. That would probably finish him off, considering the delay of the Tassadar shield. You know, maybe yes, maybe no. So that's kind of a cool thing. And then we get to that second moment here. You know, these are the micro plays for which there was space. In comes Johanna with the Blessed Shield, and we see this big move. But Reset is caught in a very awkward location here. And very nicely recognized by Expert. Bad Benny deals with 2 problems at the same time. His own life is in danger, and Malfurion looks to be out of position. So they're going to make a jump for him. This was sick. This was supposed to be a takedown here for Team Expert, but very nice prioritization by Reset. First with the Twilight Dream, then as we pause it, very cool, incoming by Zarya to deal with that expulsion zone as well. Then he uses Ice Block, and eventually at the exact right time, while Silence is still up, he will run away as we run it forward. A very key save here, because this kind of kill on Tomb of the Spider Queen could have changed everything for Expert here. And it was a very narrow affair. I don't think Reset had more than 20 HP.
Yeah, and this is one of those moments where you see the power of these kind of control of choke points from MVP Black with the expulsion zone, the silence, the blind that comes over there at the end. It was just at all those moments they were just so close to killing him, but they just couldn't quite pull it off, pull it through.
All right, game number 1 in the books here. MVP Black currently takes the 1-0 lead. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors, and when we return, it's game number 2.
The 2017 Heroes Global Championship Finals are brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the HGC 2017 Finals, as we are almost ready for game number 2. The big question on everybody's mind is which battleground will we head to figure out who is going to be able to take the lead, or maybe even an expert can tie us up. It will be MVP Black taking us to Battlefield of Eternity.
Historically, it's been a great map for this team.
Pretty good map, indeed. And that's a bit surprising to me that Expert was willing to give that up. I just said their 2 highest priority maps are Tomb of the Spider Gwen and Battlefield of Eternity. And Battlefield of Eternity historically has been their best map before the HGC League. Last year in Sweden, they had one of the fastest games ever. I think it was against Liquid at the time.
Yeah.
It was like a 5-6 minute game, and everybody's like, their mind is blown, right?
It's the
that's how dominant they are.
The Sylvanas back then plays a factor.
But usually against Avatar or something. But I'm glad you mentioned that, JH, because actually Battlefield of Eternity is turning out to be one of the longest game time battlegrounds of this tournament, in stark contrast to some of those quick games we've seen. When you think about that, I think Expert would like to get to level 20 against MVP Black. They would like to have longer games. Europe always plays more passively, more safely, slow in every game of esports titles in Blizzard. StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3, and now Heroes of the Storm. So I think that's an okay result for Expert.
And it's one of the maps where we've seen the biggest comebacks in Heroes of the Storm history as well. Let's get on to it. Game number 2 here, as MVP Black currently to 1-0 in this best of 5.
Well, the Tyrael ban here is such a smart, safe starting ban. It's kind of, you could almost say it's, in this case, the Medivh bans we've been seeing from the Korean teams here. You see Tyrael dominate on this map for Korea for so long. China as well, if you look back at 2016 history. But this hero allows you to kind of counter any sort of dive, no matter what comp you're running. If you're running a poke comp, a race comp, a dive comp, you know, there's obviously variations therein, but you can also be aggressive with the Tyrael, and I think Black's playstyle, with how coordinated they are, he's one of the scariest heroes to face on this map, so I think it's a very safe opening ban here.
So the preferred warrior for Expert is Muradin, with the second being ETC. And they've banned a lot of ETC and then picked up Muradin. They value this a lot. Rhaegar, preferred support for either team. MVP Black is going to take that. Now the Kharazim one, that is an unusual pick, which shows a kind of deeper draft strategy here. We haven't seen these two heroes picked together in HGC Blizzcon finals here even once, including opening week.
And this is going to be the first time Black plays on Battlefield of Eternity. So, you know, this is where we're going to find out exactly what they want to run on this patch. Obviously, we've seen them play countless times back in League, but in this format, or sorry, in this tournament, it's going to be the first time.
The interesting thing about this is 2 supports, but they're 2 melee supports. They do quite a bit of damage. We get the Iron Fist, of course, the Lightning Bond for Rhaegar at level 1.
Yeah.
It's got to double up on that heavy dive. So I wonder if Expert does have something to control that front line, something that we might not normally see. So with Muradin, it's a solid choice, but
it would not be crazy to pick up Arthas per se, but you don't know the damage type that's coming out of MVP Black yet.
That's the scary thing. They end up locking in the Sonya early. That does give the front line control. The Brightwing's going to be there in case we do see a potential Tracer again on that backside, so taking that away.
Plus, Expert has Spider Senses tingling. This is a weird draft. There's Kharazim. He gives movement speed to everyone, and he can enable dive comps. And so Brightwing, as an anti-dive hero, does pretty well. And so they just want to be ready early on to flex the final 2 picks.
Do you feel that there was a focus maybe on the fact that Athero right now feels more comfortable, and certain heroes, Sonya's definitely one of them, compared to having the Grey Mane last game?
I really think so. And I think that it's a safe pick because Sonya's always going to be a strong solo laner. I love that pick. Brightwing pick, not so much. There's no boss control that's important on this map. Genji is easily removed because the Brightwing bombs that have caused such disruption, such disarray in teamfights, it messes up the coordination of teams like MVP Black. So they ban the Genji away here. And now I look at Expert and go, what are you trying to build? You're trying to counter something, but with this Brightwing, it feels, with the Genji gone, but what are you trying to counter? It feels like they made a blind choice here.
Yes.
And this draft, this top 3 picks, in other scenarios would look strong, but in this one, I don't feel like it speaks to me as to any sort of plan. It's just kind of like, let's try to be safe here, but it doesn't push anything forward, and Black now has all the options.
And I think you said it best. They're playing blind here, Expert. And that's, of course, MVP Black's intention. Karazim has been on the first half of the draft, but not that often, and it's for a reason. He's not the highest priority, but in doing so, MVP Black has hidden any intention. We don't know their warrior or their assassin route. And this is one of the biggest mysteries here about to unfold in the next 25 seconds. We can make guesses, but we can't be sure.
It's so open.
Well, not anymore, I suppose. Li Ming coming through with ETC. And, you know, this looks to be just another defensive comp from MVP Black. It has a lot of damage potential to be aggressive with ETC and Karazim. Obviously, Rhaegar's bite and things like that. But in terms of when the Immortal phase is running, that's when Black mostly posturing with ETC and Rhaegar, while Li Ming is doing that main damage. So it's going to now be on Expert to find a comp that can get in there and hit that Li Ming. Sonya is going to be useful in this case, Muradin as well, to get under that back line. But I think they need more.
I'm feeling a final pick Malthael for MVP Black, and I think Expert has to consider it.
Yeah, they definitely have to consider. I think the Brightwing does well there. One thing I see on the side, but when you've got Karazim, you've got ETC, you have the potential block party, you've got the Earth ally there. So going into auto attack style heroes, you might not get the most value out of. So they're kind of putting them into a direction they might not feel entirely comfortable with in terms of that back line. I talked about Nick's Vala. The Tracer's not as appealing with this composition now, so
I think Ana Vala could be the best choice here. Ana, with the spell power attack at level 7, could remove much of the damage of a Malthael. They're going to go with Tassadar, which I feel is a lot more of a passive approach and much weaker against Malthael, who, to me, seems the obvious choice here coming out. I could be wrong, but
I don't think they really needed wave clear here either.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that's... It feels like this is a comfort pick kind of idea here.
And you know what? Ana has even better vision control than Tassadar. He's got an Oracle every, 20, 30 seconds? It is going to be the Haka. But Ana can also use the healing darts to check for bushes. Yeah. Every 2 seconds.
I think the Dahaka pick over the Malthael pick does weaken the defensive composition that Black is trying to run here. Obviously, if you try to get onto Li Ming and you have those Tormented Souls, it's going to be a lot stronger. But I suppose if Black gets ahead, then Sonya has to come down, the Thero has to come down, and you have Rich just sitting up there getting that extra damage. That's the trade-off. I think it does give them a stronger pushing power in that top lane, but it's not as strong in terms of team fighting, so I think that's pretty good for Expert.
But the Vala pick, we know the power of the Q build on here. Again, it's something that I've seen Nick play a countless amount of times. So you got to have faith in that. When you've got Sonya, you've got Vala on the Immortal, you at least have the race potential. And there's a lot of race potential on the other side. It gives you the poke value. It gives you a standard comp. And I think, as we talked about so many times, going up against MVP Black without just like, all right, we can't necessarily take a team fight, but if you play safe, play standard, MVP Black will literally try and steamroll you at that point. And that's what scares me. Can they deal with the aggression of MVP Black?
Your thoughts?
Dahaka will outpush Brightwing and force Sonya to go to the offlane, which in a big way weakens Expert's team fight.
Makes the rotates weird.
Yeah. In terms of Immortal trading, if they both just go ham, Vala will do great and Sonya decent, but Rhaegar is one of the best supports at it. And you've got Li Ming. I think, I do think it's a balanced draft. I do think better execution will win out.
I think the draft for Expert, I feel like it feels like a solid Hero League draft, a draft where you're very happy with the results. You've got these 5 players, you're like, okay, we've got one great thing for each role, but it doesn't have a theme. And Black's theme is obvious. We've got this global, we're going to use it to push, and we're going to defend Li Ming, who's going to do the damage. And I think that's the problem, that's the disconnect. The thematic draft for Black, and Expert tried to play too safe.
Well, guys, it's time to go to game number 2 now as we continue things on. MVP Black currently leads 1-0 in this best of 5. Can Expert bring it back, or can MVP Black push it further?
Expert might be playing safe here with the draft, but it's a draft that we've seen many times from them in the past. The crowd continues to be hyped up, and they're ready for this match, Caldor.
Yeah, I'm hyped too. Like the first game, we saw the dominance of the Korean team, Black looking strong here. But then again, it's a lot of comfort picks that we are seeing for Expert right now. Was thinking if they might head into a Tracer style again with double support, Nick excelling on the hero, of course, but then especially with the first two picks, the supports a lot of chase potential with Karazim against Tracer. So they go into Vala, and that can really work for them. They had a lot of success with these particular compositions in the European phase.
Well, it's good to see Vala again. We haven't seen her in a while. Let's go ahead and go to game number 2. It's going to be Battlefield of Eternity, as we're going to figure out if Team Expert can tie it up against MVP Black, or if MVP Black will get a large lead heading in the specified series.
Expert is definitely the underdog in the series here, but they're here to fight. They need to go up against the team to the left of the map with a 1-0 lead. Sake on a Karazim. We have Reset, this time on Liming for the range damage. Tisk is playing ETC. Kyoja on a second support with Rega, and Rich on the Haka. Ladies and gentlemen, MVP Black!
On the right side in the red, Curson will be playing Brightwing. Bad Benny back on his Muradin. A Thorough Angel on Sonya. ADRD playing Tassadar, and Vala will be played by Nick. It's Team Expert.
ADRD definitely immediately adapting his build a little bit here. Now speccing on level 1 into Psy Infusion, which is the more common talent on the European realm to take on Tassadar. I really feel that the last game adaptation was very much because of Black's draft, in particular Tracer, trying to put a bit more pressure on her, which didn't quite work out in their favor. But in this setup that we're seeing for Team Expert now, as we mentioned before, a lot of comfort picks. Bad Benny excels on Muradin. Sonya, Ethereal Angel, is so good on here. And of course, then we have Curson on Brightwing. And there's a lot of teams that say that Brightwing in Curson hands can single-handedly win a team fight with good isolation of the target.
Personally, I'm excited for the late game for both these compositions. Team Expert, when they hit 16, they will get scary. Tassadar with the double side storm. You have Sonya getting a little bit more tanky. Murden as well being able to jump across the map. It feels like Vala finishing up her Hungering Arrow build. Things will look scary here for Team Expert, but over at MVP Black, Karazim is level 16. Li Ming having those resets coming in the Mirror Ball. So let's see if we can even get that far on BOE. As the early game trades seem to be going slightly in favor of Team Expert as Vala continues to move forward and apply those auto attacks.
I actually think it's really interesting to see that we have Power Hungry taken from Reset on this map in particular. On most maps, you get so much value out of the globes and out of the talent that you can make a strong argument for it. Whereas we are seeing on Battlefield of Eternity a lot more just like really standoffs in the middle where you just don't have the access to the globes. So it's going to be interesting to see how much value he actually gains from that level 1 choice.
Feels like he thinks and believes that they're going to win the Immortal phase pretty handily. Medium will grab those 2 region globes. Nick, though, taking damage on the right side. It's Black. Will set up and engage. They'll take out Nick. Can they get Bad Benny as well? He's kiting backwards. It's going to be 2 kills here for Black.
They get the double kill here early on in the game. Sonya, in the meantime, was still at the top, so Black committing the entire team to the bot lane for these 2 early game kills, and that gives Ethereal a little bit more wiggle room to not only clear an additional wave, but also jump onto the Immortal early. But of course, Black still gets the halftime show here.
They get the halftime show here. Expert does bring everyone back to the middle lane here to go ahead and start setting up as Murden will show up. Where is going to be the Immortal spawns? Ooh, this is going to be a bit hard for Team Expert. They may just have to take the trade and defend against the Immortal.
Yeah, so with the first Immortal, we of course have the positions then to the left and right, and Expert already grouped up around it, trying to just burn it down as fast as they can. Their problem here is that Vala just hasn't really completed the level 4 quest yet. Level 4 talent just came online, so we don't have any stacks. Later on, it's really going to help them to burn the hit points down. But they eliminated most of the shield, so the first Immortal for MVP Black is still something that they should be able to handle, unless, of course, Black can once again isolate a few heroes and get kills in.
Yes, at 4 and 7, very important for the Vala. Now, with the top lane being pushed in with the Immortal, they put Dahaka only up on that top side, so he'll be able to defend it, but MVP Black is splitting on the bottom side. This is something that Team Expert has seen in the past with Trick Esports, so they know they're setting up for the defense and being ready for it.
Black is playing this extremely well in the early game already, taking the lead in experience here. Bad Benny once again just towing the line. And him on Muradin, it's just a pleasure to watch it because he really knows how deep he can go. We saw it on the last map in particular. He was always incredibly low, but he found these opportunities for his team and could even turn a dire situation into a potential kill. Black in the end wins the map, but we still have that potential for Expert to turn fights around. They just have to prove it now here on Battlefield of Eternity.
Yeah, Bad Benny has been superb on that Muradin. I will worry about him a little bit here with it being Brightwing and Tassadar for the healers instead. Yeah, so Hopefully we'll see him in this tournament at some point, Keldor. I know that'll make you happy.
Yeah, and the Horse Cam shout out here as well. Horse Cam and Spicy Chicken, the secret weapons of Team Expert. So far, they've not really proven to be enough to beat MVP Black, but we're only in game number 2, so there's still a long way to go. Black hasn't won the series yet, but they're definitely looking good.
Yeah, one has to wonder how long Horse Camp can actually affect your gameplay. Is it expiring too soon, the actual power that he got from that camp?
I don't know the cooldown either. You would have to ask Bad Penny for that.
Well, we'll see if they'll be able to push through here as MVP Black continues to control the map pretty darn well. Bottom side, 2 turrets have been cleaned up. The Immortal phase has gone through, did some damage on the top lane, and Dahaka versus Sonya continues. And Team Expert is just waiting on the side. Their only main goal here is for Nick to continue to finish that level 4 quest as soon as possible. And right now, he only has 2 stacks.
Exactly. He doesn't get a lot of stacks so far, and it would really help them with the Immortal phase if they can increase those a bit more. But also with level 7, we have a couple of power spikes, especially when we're talking at Li Ming. Having Calamity available, it really helps you to confirm kills in team fights and, of course, get those resets for your heroes. So this is something to watch out for later on, as we have the second Immortal soon going to be announced. The teams are now also looking for their camps, obviously. But I'm curious to see how much Expert can now do with these level 7s. Since, yes, Li Ming excels with her Calamity and can really be the decider in a team fight. But we have on the side of Team Expert Poison Spear now. We have the range for AD already for Tacita so that he can stay safer in the background a bit. The heavy impact for Murden alone is already a huge game changer, and repeating arrow is going to make it so much easier for Vala to push the damage either on the Immortal or on a target.
I mean, that 7 power spike is great for both of our top laners. Even Dahaka with that feeding frenzy, he becomes a menace. He's able to work in those auto attacks. Team Expert is now in a spot where they are defending their Immortal on the right side while they put Tacita on the top to continue pushing forward with the Mercenary camp. Meanwhile, Brightwing's in the bottom, but you mentioned it earlier. Dahaka versus Brightwing is quite a difficult matchup. Oh, but hang on. Nick's in a weird spot here as he gets caught out as MVP Black turns it up.
Great call by MVP Black. They see an opportunity and they go for it immediately. Bad Benny falls as well. He was forced into an awkward spot because Vala was split. He was trying to save her, and Black just gets kill after kill. They drive the wedge into the composition. Vala is isolated. Everybody scrambles to try and save her since she is still the main damage for the team. And then as a result, they not only lose their hyper carry here, but they also lose Murden and Kirsten, who both attempted to save them. So right now, a solid leading experience for MVP Black, starting to snowball towards level 10, and they also have the most pressure on the Immortal. If they can push with a full shield Immortal and a level 10 advantage, Expert would be in for a world of pain.
All Expert can do right now is try to burn down as much of the Immortal as they can or try to get a kill. And they look like they're looking for that kill. They jump on Kyocha and dive him on the top side. Can they actually get a kill here? Sony gets dragged on the side. Kyocha pulling back to the Immortal, and he's going to be just fine as Rick will chase a thorough.
They're going for the defense. The drag connects. Meriden jumps in, but the kill as Sonya goes down, and they go for Bad Benny. They have the level 10s right now. They take him down as well. 7 kills against 0. And they're about to confirm another MVP Black toying with their food on Battlefield of Eternity.
MVP Black is just outclassing Team Expert right now. 8 kills to 0. A Immortal with a massive shield will be pushing on the bottom lane, it looks like. No, the top lane here. And no, it doesn't be the bottom. It's going to be the bottom lane pushing in with a huge Immortal here. A lot of shields, and they have level 10 here, Keldor.
Now, you can understand the thought process of Team Expert. They saw that it was only half a level until Black hits 10. If they just give the Immortal up, then all of a sudden it's a level 10 Immortal with shields moving in. So they said, guys, is this a risk? We might lose it here, but if we go in and get the kill, then we can just equalize again. We can reset, and it's going to be a lot easier for us to defend this. But of course, with them losing another 3 heroes, this is just completely snowballing out of hand. You can see how passive they are here. They know they have no chance of contesting it without level 10, so they are playing safe for now. They sacrifice the fort, and they will now start to make their way in, but they need the level 10. Here comes the 7-sided. Bad Benny in trouble. They still don't have heroic abilities, but the keep is now threatened.
The keep is threatened. 10 right around the corner here for Team Expert. They've managed to get through the shield, which is good here, but can they do more? Bad Benny continues to Kai on the right side. 10 so close for Team Expert. Finally it hits. Now, will they take this opportunity to jump in? Yes, they do. Bad Benny charges forward, but with a knockback from Tis, Team Expert turns around and focuses the Immortal, and they'll be safe here as they keep up their keep.
I absolutely love what Black just did. They could have been saying, hey guys, this is easy, and being a little bit too arrogant, just say that, try and go for the keep. Instead, they immediately said, why risk it?
Yeah.
We already blew through the fort. We already blew through the wall. At this point, we have a 2-level lead. They are going to look for a fight once they hit 10, so let's just back off. and they just keep ETC in the perfect position. They push everyone back with the face melt and saying like, yeah, we're going to wait for 13, and then we're going to take it from there. We can fight for the next Immortal. There is no need for us to accept the team fight that Expert desperately needs.
Well, the story would have been way different there if Nick had actually been caught out. He was actually very careful with not using his Volt there. The Wave of Force came out and he was able to Volt afterwards. Now, looking in progress, Team Expert has fought back a little bit on the bottom side and got some damage on the fort, but with Dahaka coming in, Rich turns around with an isolation. He will hit Murden. 7-sided strike. Just nails that Benny here to low health, but he's able to get out. A Rain of Vengeance comes out on Nick.
Giving Brightwing the opportunity to use the ult for even more safety for Bad Benny here. But once again, we're seeing MVP back moving in. Rich is a little bit low as ADRD is trying to get the kill. The mosh pit comes in. The cleanse as well. But still Kirsten ready with the polymorph. But Bad Benny solo. He gets blown up. And that is where Li Ming is getting kill after kill. Moving in for a double, a triple. And only 2 heroes on the side of Team Export are able to walk away from the carnage.
2 walk away, but that's more than that could have been. Reset actually missing out on some of those abilities, getting the proper resets to get the kills. So Team Expert will save 2, but you can see MVP Black continues to outclass him. 11-0 in kills. Let's check out that fight here. As Bad Benny got low, we saw that there was a nice drive on the left side here for a Thorough as he continued to sit near 3 people, but on the right, Bad Benny goes in for a big dwarf toss into a Stormbow, and he misses. So Tis takes the opportunity, power slides in, goes for a mosh, and from there, Reset just finished it up.
Yeah, they're getting the kills immediately, and especially also seeing the cleanse on the mosh pit. It didn't really give them as much as they were hoping for. Curson was ready for it, but it's still a very nice touch on the side of MVP Black, and it shows the coordination. It shows how disciplined they are currently with that play, and Expert is just scrambling. Also, what we saw in that last fight was a perfect move with the combo, getting the isolation on a target, and then the 7-sided strike. That what initiated everything. And once again, we're having Expert fighting. They have talent down, but they need to do something, and they know it.
Well, they know 7-sided strike has been used. They're trying to force an issue here while they had that big heroic down for 30 seconds. Also, Moshpit still down for 30 seconds. Team Expert forcing the issue here, moving straight into the Immortal, using that Poison Spear when he can. ADRD and crew poking on the side, but Reset is ready to go. All they need is Tist to power slide in.
And MVP Black cleared the camp at the top lane. The Shaman camp on the bot lane, on the other hand, pushing for MVP Black, is still active. So Expert needs to rotate down and deal with it. And this is what they're doing now, which gives MVP Black the opportunity to go for the Immortal. They've been waiting for someone to show down here, and they immediately started to attack.
Superb play here from MVP Black as they start the halftime show. They have a nice lead as well. The Immortal will be landing soon, and they can go ahead and focus it down here, especially with Karazim and Li Ming hitting the wells here to top on off. They go in for a fight though on Tist here, as we'll have Bad Benny engaging the fight. Tist does get away, but the Immortal continues to get low. Team Expert has to play defense.
Expert really does not want to go into big fights, but they have to. They are pressured so hard here. They cannot sit tight and just wait for the experience to tickle in to get level 13. So they are in an uncomfortable position where they know they are in a very bad spot to fight, but they have to. Murden once again chained all their time, and it's 7-sided side hits as well, and the isolation from the Haka. Well played here. They try to go for reset, but they can't confirm the kill against Li Ming, and now it's Brightwing's time to die. Another double kill for MVP Black. 13 kills against 0. Make that 1.
A Thorough's won the chase, though. He's continuing to move in. The drag, he dodges it. He turns around, he looks at Rich, bringing out the slams. Can they get a kill on Dahaka? He's going to burrow and pop the essence here and be able to turn it around. Back and forth between these two teams. Now, Murden is back up, but he has to get across the map. A Thorough trying to kite backwards.
Rich, a second ago, he was in trouble, but he dodges their spear. He hits the drag, and Sonya dies.
Sonya dies here, and Team Expert will take what they can here. Even Curson a little bit stunned there as he walks a little bit too far forward. 15-13. Team Expert continues to fall further and further behind. Now with Karazim spawning up, MVP Black can push his top lane and get 16.
Expert finally has their 13, but it is just too late. Let's keep in mind that all of these fights that we just saw were with MVP Black having a talent advantage over Team Expert. But Expert, normally you would say, sit tight, wait, give something up, and just wait until you can fight on even footing with your opponent. But Expert knew they couldn't afford to do that. MVP Black is pushing with these Immortals, and they needed to fight for them. Now that we finally have 13, Black is already so far ahead that they just hit the 16 talents. Expert can never get the fights they want, and Murden just gets blown to pieces. Doesn't even have the chance to go for his avatar. Now Sonya dies too. This is the beginning of the end.
Rich directly baits out that engagement there. Both Sonya and Bad Benny forced the issue, missing completely there, and then they turned it around and got the kill. The Keep easily going to be taken down here. 12 more seconds for Murden back on the field. Team Expert has to be safe. They have to kite backwards. Nick being as careful as he can.
Cleanse just being used after Nick went in for the stun with the Rain of Vengeance, but Vala gets blown off. The stagger Deathseer Kirsten too late with the Emerald Win to save anyone, and now the Immortal is walking straight up to the core. Bad Benny trying to slow them down, but MVP Black, they want to end it right here.
Archon has been popped on the side here. Rich trying to do his best to zone out ADRD, and ADRD will get focused down. 7-sided strike kills Bad Benny as well, and MVP Black will move straight for the Immortal and grab another lead here in this specified series, going up 2-0.
They're trying to go for Vala to make it 20 kills, but it's not quite happening. 19 kills against 1 as MVP Black is victorious on Battlefield of Eternity and takes the 2-0 lead in the best of 5 semifinal at the HGC finals.
Experts having a hard time here with MVP Black. The number 2 team at the Western Clash having a really hard time here against the best in the East. Let's go ahead and go straight to our desk and get their thoughts on game number 2.
If there was any doubt if MVP Black are back, that was really difficult to say there for a moment. Black are back. There you go. If there was any doubt about that, it has pretty cleanly been dispelled when you see games of that caliber. That was just a butchering of Team Expert.
Yeah, we were not aware that there was such a big difference actually between MVP Black and Expert. Actually, Bad Benny said that they had good scrim results, which was in stark contrast with what Reset said, where he said Expert doesn't look like that much of a threat from scrim results. Funny juxtaposition there. But one more thing is, Bad Benny, despite putting on a brave face, he did say maybe the underdog can do well. Now, he left out who he thought the underdog was, but I feel like there was a subliminal insecurity there going up against the MVP Black, and we can see now the prowess of MVP Black, and we can see why.
In fact, speaking of seeing things, I think you do have a highlight or two to...
Yeah, I have one highlight, actually, because MVP Black turned on the pressure very early on. As we roll this replay forward, this is kind of those do-or-die moments. You know, level 10 is about to be reached. We see Murden jumping in there, and we had a lot of cool stun things happening here. We have that drag tongue. We've got the, Murden jump in, trying to make something happen. They actually comboed it with the stun. But in comes ETC. Here we see that drag tongue. Rich has been playing amazingly. I was like, oh, I'll just stun him again. In comes Murden. The final warrior has the right of way, it seems, has the say. And then just one kill was enough to spiral it completely out of control and start this cascade of takedowns that MVP Black never really held up with.
This is, again, the defensive style of Black. They have 10 first. They have the lead on the Immortal. It's Expert is forced to make a fight, and you just see these defensive engagements again and again and again. This was a mechanical outclassing of Expert, basically from Black. And Reset, touted as the best Leeming player in the world. You see these wave of forces coming through these defensive engagements. It's just so tough to compete against a team of this caliber.
The whole thing that we said in the draft is, and I've talked to several players, like, you can't play this style against MVP Black. They will literally run past whatever it is you're trying to do with your front line. They will literally put so much pressure on you, and teams are not used to that. This is a very rare team in their form, and I just think they're just going to try and steamroll it. They steamrolled it. Again, the whole thing about the second game that just surprised me was Expert not taking the map pick and then going to one of MVP Black's best, one that highly emphasizes team fighting, and then playing that style. Felt a little bit off there.
Yeah, and a large part of this quality that we can't put our fingers on. Why is MVP Black coming ahead in every situation? We can say the blanket, they're better mechanically, but I feel a large part of it was the battle of Bad Benny versus Tist. You've got Sonya and Vala. They do really good damage. If they can pick a target that gets isolated or stunned, they will get a mark. They will get a kill. Why did it never work? Why did it never take off? Is Tist versus Bad Benny. Bad Benny jumps in, and everyone was talking about how good Murden was going to be at this tournament. Dwarf toss in, stun, follow up Stormbolt, and that's a long, but always Tist with the face melt. I counted them, about 95% success rate. Murden jumps in, face melt. It interrupts him. He's not unstoppable, and the stun never happens.
Yeah, and this comp is never going to face melt early. why would you? And whoever has the defender's advantage is going to win out these trades every time. You can't bait the face melt and then come in. If you could, or if you could find those windows, maybe you could make those plays happen. But it's a defensive comp from Black, and it's a comp they've shown countless times. I agree with Jehao. Don't pick this map against this team that will run this style.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. As we're going to go to a short break here, and when we return, game number 3. Currently, MVP Black leads 2-0 here against Team Expert.
The 2017 Heroes Global Championship Finals are brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
Scrapes and adventures than I can count. That being said, I've never seen anything like this.
Hail, hero.
Is that a frog in a bubble? Oh gosh, they are so cute. Well then, there's so many friendly people here. Coming through. Love the hair.
Oh, the cavalry's here!
This place is awesome! I found some Vikings! Wow, you're big! The name's Tracer, and the Nexus could always use more heroes. Ah! Not funny!
Terrible fate has befallen this world. Evil runs rampant, uncontested. I can stand by no longer. Die, Hellspawn! Crawl back to the pit from whence you came. I am the Archangel Tyrael, and I will defend this realm from all who would defile it. For I am justice itself.
Eternal. We evolve. We conquer. We will consume all within the Nexus. Your villains, your heroes will all become part of my brood. Okay, fine. You two. You will try to resist, but it is only a matter of time, for the swarm is eternal.
I was told this suit would be my prison. Suits me just fine. Been called a lot of things. A renegade, an outlaw. Guilty as charged. Makes life exciting. You never know who or what will be on your side. So when the Nexus came calling, there was only one thing to say. Hell, it's about time.
Stitches want shame. Stitches want playtime. Stitches played too rough. No one play with Stitches. But Stitches found Nexus. In Nexus, everyone has to play with Stitches. So much playtime makes Stitches hungry.
I was once a Far Strider. I swore an oath to defend Silvermoon and its people to my dying breath. It was not enough. My homeland still burned. But those days are long past. And history will not repeat itself. I am Sylvanas Windrunner, Queen of the Forsaken. And if you will not serve me in this life, then you will do so in the next.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the HGC 2017 Finals, where we amidst a best of 5 between MVP Black and Team Expert to determine who's going to move on to the grand final. And at the moment, MVP Black is making this look absolutely dominant from their side. Wolf, it seems they're just back to former glory.
They really, they do seem that way. They haven't dropped a single map in this tournament thus far. I feel like their drafting is solid. It's always been a staple of Black. And I think a mistake against Black is to try to draft safe. I think you need to go into something maybe you haven't shown yet, or some sort of specific draft, because if you're trying to counter Black's draft, they will outdraft you every time, and I think that's what we saw in games 1 and 2.
Well, let's find out which battleground we're going to be going to here to start things in game number 3. Will Expert take it? Yes, they will, and they go to Towers of Doom, a map that they have a lot of comfort on, gentlemen.
They have a lot of comfort on, but one thing that just instantly comes to mind is the legendary Kyocha Tracer on Towers of Doom. He was one of the first people to just kind of come out and dominate people with it last year. He moved over to support, but whenever it comes out, he's the one to play it. We saw Nick play it as well. That could be a hero that will have high priority between these two teams. Towers of Doom, obviously, totally different meta.
Let's get into it.
So the way that Expert has responded to an early Tassadar pick, if MVP Black should go with the first pick Tassadar, is they actually end up taking Tracer for themselves in the first pick rotation. Not gonna happen, Tassadar's gone, the Tracer reputations on either teams are known. Now Expert in 18 bans have only banned support twice in this entire tournament so far, so I'm expecting them to follow through with a Warrior ban here probably, and I would say ETC would be a pretty good bet here, as ETC has been quite a defensively successful hero for MVP Black.
Abathur is banned here. We're just going to see the top tier Muradin pick. Remember, how Black gets these one drafts is they take tools available, like they tier them, right? Tracer and Tassadar are at the top of the tiers. If that combo is removed, or their first pick, like in this case, because they didn't get Battleground choice, they go to the next best thing. Muradin's going to be that top tier hero. This allows them to draft around what Expert's doing, and it puts Expert into this position where they don't want to show too much. They drafted safe in game 2 because they were like, okay, Black's going to counter us, but then they didn't really end up with a draft that meant anything, as we called it earlier. It kind of felt like a Hero League draft. I want Expert to go all in on something right now, whether Black counters it or not. Go with a comfort pick here.
You know what's a comfort pick for Expert that we haven't quite seen yet?
What do you think?
Well, ADRD action. Have not seen Medivh.
It's true. It's true.
And this
very
is
strong
something
on this
that
map.
Very strong on this map indeed. So it's hard to commit too early because there are counters out there. I wonder if it will make it through to past the second ban phase. That's the fear that you have to have. I think they're definitely considering ETC as you mentioned. They go with it. They just go with it.
I mean, to me, obviously, I cast HGC Korea. I watch Europe as much as I can. And when I studied all the games of Expert, this combo in particular, ADRD and Bad Benny on these two heroes, was by far the most impressive thing I saw from this team. Great synergy with the portals, protection for the ETC. Bad Bunny's ETC, world-renowned, even the Korean teams giving a lot of respect. This is the kind of draft I was looking for from Team Expert.
So what you're saying is bringing out the big guns here to keep themselves alive.
Exactly.
And echoes from the past. MVP Black lost in the semifinals of BlizzCon against ETC Medivh Tyrande, by the way.
Yeah. I will put this out there because the way that Expert plays the ETC style is a split approach. They will isolate somebody. You'll watch Bad Benny kind of casually walk into the middle. He'll face melt and then slide back towards his side. With Medivh, it allows you to go a little bit more aggressive as we see the Li Ming picked up one more time. But some stats that I have in phase 2 for Bad Benny, he on 91 slides, they confirmed 26 kills, which was a kill rate of almost 29%, which was unusually high when we looked at some of the other people there. It was a really interesting thing. But on the other side, in terms of like hitting 2 or more heroes, he did that fewer than anybody. Expert has that 15% of the time on his slides. He only hit 2 or more. So it's a very interesting approach that Expert has with the ETC play.
I mean, I think that this Li Ming pick, by the way, is a little bit questionable, given what we've seen so far. You know, the burst damage from Li Ming can be countered by Medivh's shields.
Yeah.
We may see a second DPS come through here. I think Black is just trying to hide that at the moment. But what's most interesting potentially we have here is the Ana pick that Black has used with Li Ming. You have a strong frontliner like Muradin, and you could just have these lined up shots. Now, that's why the Ana ban comes through here. Team Expert has done their research. This is a pairing we've seen from Black exclusively in this tournament. And we could have even seen the Arthas follow-up if they wanted to bring in a DPS for the front line that Medivh will get the protection to. So this is a very smart ban by
I want to ask about the potential of a Stukov coming in, since there is a little bit of a support choke going on down the line.
I think you're right. It would probably be the most likely one. You can see the philosophy here for MVP Black. Burst Protect in Medivh is already there, so he wants sustain healings. Malfurion is number 1, Stukov probably number 2 in that department.
Yeah.
You could still go with something else, but I think it will be a solid pick.
The one thing I think that you have to look at, especially when you talk about the supports, is potentially giving up a Morales. When you have the ETC, you generally try and get a blow-up style off of that slide. One thing that Morales provides is that safeguard, that extra armor. When you apply that, that's very difficult to get those kills. So again, the approach that they have with ETC won't necessarily work as well against that composition. So that is something to consider in terms of supports.
And Brightwing could protect pretty well against that as well. Emerald Wind to control portal points, so...
Oh,
Lucio. Sustain.
I like the Lucio pick. This has been a very highly prioritized support on this map in Korea. Part of that goes back to the support choke you were talking about, but it's also a lot about that first healing. We're going to see that second DPS come through with Ana not being here, so not going to be the double tank, double support with Li Ming carry. So they're going to take this Genji, and now do we potentially see the Uther locked in as the 5th pick to empower those Dragon Blades? It's going to be tough to make that damage work, and no, they want to go for Karzi. It's going to be tough, I feel like, with Uther to get the kills on the sound barrier, the shields coming through, but Karzim adds his own level of extra damage.
And the Karazim and the Rehgar in the previous game had so much sustain available to themselves, but equally so much pressure for the extra little bits of damage that they're able to add on.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a safe Dahaka pick here. I want to see something where Ethereal can get into the fight, kind of excel. He has the protection from Medivh. He has the slide buddy on the inside. I think Ethereal shines most when he is trying to do damage, trying to go.
What about like Ethereal here, though? I think Ethereal is fantastic. He showed it in the opening week in the group stage, and it goes well with the Greymane, goes well with the ETC. I really like
the Genji as well.
I really like a Ethereal pick here for Ethereal, if that's how they want to run this. He played Greymane, obviously, in game 1. Well, they're going to go back to that strong team fighting Malthael.
I like this a lot more in the sense that Rehgar and Karazim do provide pretty good AoE heals, some of the best, especially when they're paired together. You have very survivable targets on there, but going in with the sound barrier, with the shields, does allow you to get some extra damage. Again, I think that they have to create some type of chaos in that. And Tormented Souls definitely does that, especially when we think about the fact that you're trying to go in, you're trying to get the slide, you're trying to get the isolation. But if all the eggs are going towards the one solo target, then you're going to have a hard time blowing it up. So why not just make them prioritize different heroes and create a little bit of chaos with that pick?
You could argue the Medivh has made this team great over the past year or so, be it when they emerged onto the HGC scene and then been able to push themselves on. what better way, I suppose, to try and keep themselves alive at the very last second here in 2017 HGC?
Exactly. You're on the precipice. It's your staple weapon. It hasn't been removed. It's a good battleground for it. Absolutely smart pick. And I also want to say, I think it's not an exaggeration when I say that Malthael's level 7 pick, I expect Touch of Death, is going to be game determining in its usage. It vastly reduces the amount of healing someone receives when you turn that on all the marked targets. And its effect in countering ancestral healing is going to be of epic proportions.
I think this draft for Expert is by far their best, like way, way, way above games number 1 and number 2. They finally, I think, brought their own style here, brought a draft that's strong for the map. It has a theme. And I think if they can win this game, it won't be the death throws, it won't be their last run. I think they can maybe take this win into a longer series and potentially win it, but they have to obviously win this game to have that potential. But I think this is their best shot.
All right, our casters are ready to go. Will Team Expert keep themselves alive, or will MVP Black continue to be undefeated here at the HGC Finals?
Team Expert on their last leg here in the HGC, and they pull out the combo that is tried and true, the Medivh and the ETC.
Yeah, it's definitely their best draft so far, and it's also a very comfortable situation for them now from a composition perspective. But they are 0-2, so they really have to step it up right now. And it wasn't only the composition in the last few games, it was the execution where MVP Black excelled.
Well, let's see if Team Expert can step it up. Let's go ahead and move into game number 3 here as we go to Towers of Doom. MVP Black bringing out the Genji, looking for that aggressive play. And you gotta say, man, when it comes to the last couple games, MVP Black just seems to be on another level right now. Can Expert rise to the occasion?
We're gonna find out on the third game now. To the left, once again in blue, Sake on Karazim. We have Reset. Looking for the resets on Liming, Tist on Murden, this time with the Dwarf Kyoja on Rega, and Rich on Genji. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for MVP Black!
On the right side in the red, Curson playing Lucio, Bad Benny playing ETC. Going to be having a Thorough Angel on the Malthael. Watch for him in the Tormented Souls. ADRD brings out his Medivh, and Nick on the Grey Mane. Make some noise for Team Expert.
There's a lot that we definitely have to watch out for in this series here. In an ideal world, Lucio would only use a sound barrier every time that MVP Black goes in with Genji's ult and tries to execute someone with the Dragon Blade. But of course, MVP Black is going to attempt to put pressure on heroes and force an early sound barrier, force Lucio to pop his ult to save someone individually before they really commit to their own heroics. That's definitely one of the things we have to pay attention to here. And especially when we're looking at MVP Black's draft, one of the big advantages that they have, one of the strengths of this composition is that they're incredibly mobile. They can rotate extremely fast between the lanes. They have the reset potential on Li Ming, on Genji, and especially with Karazim and Muradin to round it up, they can always jump very deep into these fights and then back out again.
But luckily for Team Expert on the other side, you got Medivh who can stop those moments from being impactful. They normally do couple a support that is passive healing, whether it be Brightwing or Lucio, with that Medivh because they know how powerful that Force of Will can be if they can land the timing. And ADRD, he is pretty expertly at landing those Force of Will. So we'll keep an eye on him as he'll use that Medivh to shark around, flow, keep an eye on his opponents. Now, Bad Bunny and Thorough are holding down the middle lane, and Rich consistently comes down here to harass when he can.
And from a team mentality, Expert is not defeated at all yet. They've been bantering around in the lobby draft a bit with MVP Black, and you could really tell that they still think, okay, if we make this happen, if we win here, we have a shot of coming back into this. So they have not given up at all, and they have a draft that they excel at, where they can really show, okay, we are here to win games.
Thorough goes back to the top lane, while Team Expert will start the camps that spawn at 130 here. Very, very important to actually grab this. Get the pressure on that bottom side, and then Bad Bunny needs to make sure that no one is on the other side grabbing those mercenary camps, because they do have a pretty good invade composition. Even with that Malthael coming on later, the ability to bring in those portals is always deadly, and MVP Black knows this and sets up well.
And we've actually already seen how Expert is absolutely willing to give up early altars just to come back swinging in the late game. Dignitas yesterday has experienced that firsthand, but MVP MVP Black at this point is trying to make the first kill happen once again. Bad Benny is under pressure, but ADRD is ready with the save, and it showcases once again how well this team does with Medivh.
That save, though, comes at the expense of 2 altars and maybe even a third. Team Expert finally does group up on the top right and grabs the altar, but it's going to be 40 to 32 here, 36 to 32 with those 4 shots coming out. So Team Expert does take a backseat in the shots, as you mentioned, but again, they're very comfortable in the situation.
And of course, in the late game, they also have Malthael, who really comes online after 16. We have Lucio, who gets a big power spike as well. Expert is absolutely fine giving up early objectives and just fighting for the late game here. They've also taken a slight lead in experience. And I've heard situationally, actually, ADRD even argue that he sees no point in fighting for the 3rd altar in the first phase, because he says it doesn't really gain you as much. The early game doesn't matter to us. As long as we get the experience on lanes, we're absolutely happy with that spot.
I am kind of curious to see how MVP Black will try to grab an early advantage in terms of the team fighting. Like, moving down a bell tower is actually quite difficult between Li Ming and Genji. They're not an auto attacker that would normally be able to burn that down quickly, so they'll have to control those sappers well, which means that Bad Benny will have to keep an eye out for it constantly, and he does come down the bottom side to help those sappers get deleted.
One of the big advantages of having Genji in your setup is not only that he is so mobile in team fights and can really pressure the backline, it's the quick rotation between lanes where they absolutely excel. And this is what I've been talking about a bit when we look at the lineup with Karazim. Everybody here basically being extremely fast on those rotations. That's where you can put pressure onto lanes and really surprise an opponent that maybe expects you a second later. You gang up on him and you try to get the kill. Lucio actually in trouble quite a bit here. And Kirsten already realizing that he is about to fall. First kill confirmed for MVP Black, highlighting exactly what I just talked about. The quick rotation between the lanes, and already it's netting MVP Black their first kill.
Showing how devastating a Karazim can be as well. Diving forward, getting those hits on top of that Lucio, who is close to getting away. This close to getting away, but does not work out for them. And Black will be able to take this 4-man and grab the sappers on the opponent's side and start to hit that bottom lane. Now, luckily for Team Expert, they have top lane already pushing in, so they need to rotate down the bottom, clear out the sappers, and be ready for this fight.
And with Expert hitting their power spikes a lot later than MVP Black, they are going to be completely willing to wait for Medivh to get the Master's Touch. And as long as they trade kind of evenly, not in bell tower damage, but in actual just experience, they're going to be happy with this. Just if you look at Black right now, with having already the stun on Muradin's jump, having Calamity as well, that power spike is pretty huge, but Bad Benny sees an opportunity. They go in, they go for Tiz, and they get the kill.
The force of will and a thorough destroying in that fight there as we watch Malthael take out the Muradin. 14 seconds until he is back up. Team Expert with a great turnaround on top of MVP Black. Can they grab this altar, though? They're already setting up to push on the bottom side, but with Malthael peeling off, it is still a 4v4.
Yeah, and apparently Bad Benny has been updated as well. It's good Benny now, what we just saw from the crowd here, so pretty cool, cheerful. But so far he's in a bit of trouble. And again, it's the portal. Rich was waiting for them, but they still can't confirm the kill. And this highlights one of the things that we have been talking. Wow. All right, if you're dying here, still make my point. The one thing with Medivh, where they really excel at, is not only they are great at executing combos with Medivh, they're also fantastic to just use the portals. They always know what ADRD is going to do. They always know when protection is ready, when the portal is going to come online. So they really play extremely well with the hero, which is incredibly important because it's not only about how strong your Medivh player is, it's always also how good is your team at utilizing him.
Genji was almost Naruto-like in that approach and how he went for that portal and tried to punish it there, almost taking out both Bad Benny and ADRD. Now, of course, we saw a thorough Angel fall, but the experience is still fine for our teams. 9 about to hit for both of them. And again, keep that pressure up on those lanes and try to move for those forts.
And I absolutely love what you just said. You're absolutely right. Genji is currently already starting to look at ADRD in particular and saying, okay, you are going to open that portal to allow them an escape path. So I just have to stay in the vicinity to try and get that kill. And they're going for the kills again. Lucio for the second time now dying here. 3 kills against 1 as MVP Black again takes a slight lead in experience and is starting to put on the fight.
Black is just lightning fast at finding a target and deleting them. They were on Bad Benny for a couple of seconds there and then realized they could jump on top of Lucio when he came around that corner and instantly deleted him from the map. Team Expert is hurting here as 10 is already hit for Black and Sappers will be lost.
Yeah, the mobility of Black really allows them to do these moves. They have the quick rotations between lanes, and even if they catch someone on lane, they can just dash in with every single hero. And Muradin in their hands is now an absolutely amazing tool. We heard early on how you can actually counter him to an extent with HGC, but so far that hasn't really come into play too much. I think that's something we're going to see way more often later on when the team fights, a 5 versus 5 actually happen.
I feel like that's a bit of a style change as well. Team Expert with Bad Benny preferred to have him be a bit more aggressive. He's looking for those power sides. He's trying to force those fights. But we saw Tiss, he was much more passive in the last game. He could afford to do so as his team was constantly setting up with a siege potential. So we'll keep an eye on Team Expert. As they do finally hit 10, there are 2 altars, one in the middle and one on the bottom side. And Expert, knowing how important this choke is on the top left side, control it for the time being, but with Reset sharking around the bottom side, he might stretch them too thin.
Yeah, they're going to try and get at least a trade here with their bell towers to not fall too far behind in core points. And they have to slide out here once again. MVP Black, as he said, sharking around, looking for an opportunity. Nobody's splitting to the bot lane. Rhaegar thinking about it here, but the rest of the team still sitting in the middle.
Thorough comes down there to hang out with Rhaegar and trying to slow him down on the altar. The Leyline Seal still up and available for Malthael. Tormented Souls as well. They're trying to go for the fight on the left side, but Nick, he gets caught out. The Wave of Force stops him from going in the portal.
And that control of the Wave of Force on the portal is one of the main reasons why Li Ming was even drafted here. It was absolutely perfect. The escape would have been easy, but right now we have the 10s coming in for Expert as well. Here comes the Ancestral, saving Reset for now. They're trying to jump on the Theron. The sound barrier has already been popped. Genji not using his Dragon Blade yet, but here comes the Mosh Pit.
The Mosh Pit going to be hitting Genji. Can they kill him off? They finally get through it here. The Force of Will keeping Bad Bunny alive, but the combo comes afterwards and Reset going in for the kills here. A Thorough and ADRD are going to be forced to back up, and Curson comes in to make sure they get to safety. But Team Expert, losing 2 members, will lose the altars.
They lose the altars and they're down to 20 points. Now, we talked about how they're comfortable to be in a situation like this. They are playing for the late game. They did it against Dignitas, and they came back swinging. But also at the same time, it of course puts pressure on them. If you fall too far behind, even with the late game power spike, where you try to get your combos off, you might be too far behind to make that recovery. So they have to be really careful. They wanted to have the altar trade, and they didn't get it.
Did not get the altar trade here. 12.5 to almost 12 here for Team Expert. So Expert is hanging in there, moving towards that late game that you keep bringing up. And they've done a good job of stopping the sappers that keep coming their way, but they're not stopping the kicks here from Karazim.
It's just way too good how they play this. The mobility again, jumping over the wall, getting the stun against ETC. But Benny didn't see it coming there. And then the immediate 7-sided, the isolation. Once again, the big jump. But even with Medivh being in place, they do not. Yeah, they can't save him. They actually can't recover from this one. Now, once again, another bell tower is about to be taken at the bot lane. Or what just did. Now we have the altars coming online. Level 13 talent advantage for MVP Black as well. 7 kills against 2. They are running the show once again.
This is getting terrifying here for Team Expert. That's happened 3 times. The sappers being grabbed in the bait around that corner. Once got Lucio, got Bad Vinny. Team Expert's got to learn from that. Rich on the side in the top right is taking a fight here against a Thorough. Portals will help out, but Tiss is here to receive him. Goes in for the attack. They're trying to play the portal game. A Thorough finally gets hit there, and Karazim secures another kill.
Sake committing to the ulti as well, making sure that you just get the kill. And MVP Black is playing this perfectly. Even when we saw Genji die to the mosh pit attempt by Expert in the earlier fight, the thought process was, as explained earlier, they baited out the heroic ability of Lucio, and then Genji wanted to wait it out and use his Dragon Blade. Expert was able to lock him into the stun and take him out first. But you can really see the thought process on their side. Genji trying to utilize it once that Expert is weak. Li Ming always using the Wave of Force around the portals, trying to make sure that Expert can't really get that defense and also not the escape. And that's a problem, because once you interrupt the flow of the game for Team Expert, you can just pick them off one by one.
Team Expert has come back before. 26-5 was the score that they came back in yesterday against Dignitas. But right now, 36-15. Expert is hurting, but they're finding a kill here. There it is. They'll pick up the Karazim. Here comes Tiss, though, with the aid of Rich.
And here comes the Dragon Blade, but immediately the sound barrier, and that is perfect for Expert. That's a trade that you want. Can they save Bad Benny? They can, but Lucio falls.
Nick also low as well. Reset coming in here, getting a 3rd kill. Looking for a thorough 2. 4 kills here as Team Expert continues to fall to MVP Black. They just keep running him over.
The resets that are kicking in after each kill are just too much for Team Expert to handle. They cannot allow the first kill. Once that happens, Genji and Li Ming just take full control of the team fight and destroy them. And that is, of course, an opportunity that MVP Black uses immediately to secure themselves a boss and another 4 shots against the towers.
Boss 4 shots and level 16 hitting here for MVP Black. Team Expert just now hitting 14. A talent disadvantage, and the towers are also going to be getting up for them as well. The bell tower on the bottom right. Bad Minnie's moving into position to try and clear it up, but he doesn't have the DPS to even clear it out. Tiss shows up and delays.
And this could be game. 3 altars on the map, and now how does Black play this? They have the 2-level lead. They have the talent advantage. Expert is on their last leg here. It's a draft that they're extremely comfortable with, but MVP Black is just too strong right now. And if Expert doesn't get a good fight here, if they can't jump on someone, get an early kill and snowball it, then Black could end the game right here.
They have to play perfectly. That's all they have to do here, Caldor. Team Expert, top right, has set up already with Malfiel. A Thorough checks in the bush, walks into a Murden and Rich as well. This is not looking good. The Force of Will be helpful, but he doesn't have anything to stay alive. The Sound Barrier will come out to keep him up for now.
Lucio had to pop the Sound Barrier, and they're trying to get a kill. They need to do something, and they are aiming for Tist. They can't get the kill. Genji is channeling. He's channeling to the right side. If he gets this one, and he does, that might be game, because there's only one altar left. Two to the light, and there's the Sappers moving in, and this is game as we see Malfiel die. MVP Black confirms victory on map number 3, makes it a clean 3-0 against Team Expert.
It almost feels like MVP Black is just that good. They casually take out Team Expert here in the semifinals with a 3-0, stopping them in Towers of Doom. And you gotta call it out, man. Their execution looks to be the best that we've seen in months.
Oh, definitely. And this team is just absolutely fascinating. They didn't look good at the mid-season brawl. They struggled at the Eastern Clash. But ever since then, they absolutely stepped it up. And this is one thing that they just confirmed in the group stage, and also, of course, here at Blizzcon. They are in fantastic shape. They are the first team to make it to the final, and it is going to be very difficult to take them down.
Yeah, it's got to wonder who will be taking them on the grand final. We find out next in the next semifinal. But a big shout out also to Team Expert. Remember, this is a team that brought a Thorough on. They made it all the way to Blizzcon, made it all the way to the semifinals. A huge achievement for this team. Congratulations to them, but their road ends today here at the semifinals as MVP Black grabs the victory over them with a 3-0. And we get to watch them move into the grand finals, Caldor.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fantastic to see who, especially what kind of strategies come in at the final to take them down, because so far they look absolutely unbeatable. They look very crisp in their execution. They have a very strong game plan heading into every single map, and it's just a pleasure to watch them execute these fights and dance around.
Well, it's enough from us. Let's go over to Kevin here, who is with MVP Black right now.
That is right, Tim. A familiar sight here. Being here, standing next to Sake from MVP Black. Congratulations as you make your way to the grand finals here at BlizzCon 2017. I have to say, you guys are looking untouchable. You haven't even lost a game in this tournament. How are you guys feeling right now, and what is your confidence level?
먼저 결승 진출 축하드립니다. 그리고 지금 현재 압도적인 경기력을 보이고 계시는데요. 혹시 그거에 대해서 뭐 소감 같은 거 한 말씀 하실 거 있으신가요?
이스펙트 상대로는 걱정을 많이 했는데 생각보다 쉽게 가서 좀 다행인 것 같고요. 그리고 저희의 지금 폼이나 상태를 봐서는 저희가 우승할 것 같아요.
They were quite worried going against Expert, but they were surprised that they kind of won kind of easily with them. And considering that how they're performing right now, they think they're going to take it all the way to for the finals.
That led me to my next question, because when you look at the opposite side of the bracket here, Ballistics and Fnatic, do you see an opponent that's able to contest what you've brought to the table here?
이제 결승 진출하셔가지고 이제 남은 상대가 페나틱 아니면은 이제 블리스틱인데요. 그 두 팀 중에서 혹시 원하는 팀 있으신가요?
두 팀 다 센 팀이라서 누가 올라가든 상관없어요. 어차피 저희가 우승을 할 거기 때문에 아무나 와도 상관없습니다.
He thinks they're both great teams, but it doesn't really matter who comes to the top because we're gonna win anyway. So he doesn't really care who comes up.
I like it. A lot of bravado. I love it. Very good. One last question for you. This is the last opportunity we get to hear from MVP Black before the grand finals. Is there anything you'd like to say to this audience or to the world who's watching online about your team and your run here in the grand finals?
지금 많은 분들이 지금 MVP 블랙 팀을 응원하고 계시고 현장에서 많이 지금 관중에서 보고 계신데 혹시 그 관중들한테 한마디 해주실 말 있으신가요?
그냥 감사합니다. 우승으로 보답드리겠습니다.
Thank you for watching all our teams, and now we'll replay by winning the entire series in the finals. Yeah.
Fantastic, Sake. Well, congratulations and good luck in the grand finals. MVP Black, absolutely dominant, untouchable even. Kalaris, over to you.
Thank you very much, friend. An unbelievably confident MVP Black coming off the back of this round of 4, coming off the back of the round of 8, coming off the back of the group stage, not dropped a map just yet, and they're on a road to do something that is unsolvable by a lot of these teams that are presenting themselves here today. And when it comes to Fnatic and Ballistics later on down the line, they have to be very, very worried about the strength of MVP Black.
The execution of this Leeming play, I think, is one of the coolest things about this team. And we always talk about Reset's Leeming. It's been storied for as long as he's been a pro gamer, back on MVP Miracle, for example, before he moved into MVP Black. And I think that was the big story for me in that best of 5. It was just his play was so good, and the draft was clearly designed to work with an Ana comp like they used before. He didn't have those tools, and yet still just made those resets happen. No pun intended. This guy is one to watch out for.
No pun intended, but it is a thing, right? I mean, if
Absolutely.
you have a Leeming that's called Reset, you might as well have a Medivh called Protected. Like, you'll be scared of that guy too. Or like a Murky called See You Soon.
I mean, he plays Genji quite well as well.
There you go.
Not in this comp, but he does.
No, but you're talking about execution, right? And I feel like that's the name of the game. You know, I'm trying to describe MVP Black's draft, and in stark contrast to yesterday, I don't think there is an easy draft breakdown where you say, if Expert just did ABC, they would have been fine. It's just the execution here. You start to talk in superlatives and onomatopoeia, trying to describe MVP Black's performance here.
I don't know if I'm just that impressed or I'm just waiting for them to come up against what we would perceive as tougher competition who's sitting on the other side. They said they didn't care who they played, but I guarantee they'd probably be rather playing Fnatic as opposed to Ballistics, because Ballistics, they tend to have their number at times, especially at Eastern Clash. We've seen some epic series throughout the year. There's another level to this team we just have not seen yet. It just doesn't feel like they've been challenged. This team is actually better than what we've seen. That's the scary thing.
Yeah, I mean, they defeated a North American team, Team Freedom, and then defeated Expert, neither of which were considered necessarily the strongest teams even from their respective regions. Had a fairly easy group, came up there 9-0 now, and I do agree. I think whichever team meets them will be their greatest challenge in this tournament thus far. So I think we just have to wait and see, but execution looks strong, and I think you don't want to try to outdraft this team right now.
Grubby, I think you had a highlight to show us?
Yeah, I got one little cool highlight. It's kind of the name of the game. You saw a lot of heroics and a lot of team play being used just to get a single kill. But as we pause it here for a second, I'd like to focus your attention on the minimap, right? You see here that all the members of MVP Black are rounding in on the team of Expert, and a lot gets used to kill a single hero. That's the depth of difficulty that Expert was running with. As we roll it forward, you get these isolated kills. You know, it wasn't a perfect game by MVP Black, but look at the turnaround. In with the Dwarf Toss. And then Genji's ult gets used, then you've got the sound barrier, which is nice. Nice shot across the bow by Leeming there. But still, you're waiting for someone to drop low, and it's Bad Bunny in this case. Medivh, as we pause it for a sec, that's the biggest thing here. Medivh was absent in this fight. It's just that, you know, he doesn't have as much mount speed as other heroes, and had he been here, it could have been entirely different. But with his absence, it takes only one kill for Reset to pop off. We roll it forward at full speed, and you just see, you know, Reset doing Reset things. Kill after kill, gives her all her abilities back, her heroics, and then what should have been a pretty nice isolation kill, leading to a greater level of map control, just turns to dust in their mouths.
I think there's a great moment there when you're as a Leeming player that if you cross the T in terms of like military terms, to be able to then kind of overshoot the retreat path, either they retreat into it if they're under threat and then get hit by it, or they're in a dangerous position anyway because MVP Black's putting on so much pressure at the front, so it's well calculated and well executed.
Yeah, the Dragon Blade, I feel like, was completely nullified, and they, because of that lack of Medivh, they just weren't able to do anything in that moment where the Dragon Blade is just really swinging at shields, but it's Reset who hits those shots consistently, and you know, Bad Bunny gets in a bad spot, Medivh has to move away, and you're just basically dead at that point.
There's one thing that I saw in both games that they played seven-sided strike with Leeming is that they will seven-sided strike a target. As that target walks away, Reset holds his wave of force. As they walk away, they push them back in. Not only does it push them in, but anybody trying to come in and soak the additional shots, because it's soaked by the number of heroes there, they will continue to isolate that hero. That's a composition to where that is a well-practiced thing that they've done. They actually have done it multiple times over the last few games. Every time I see it, I'm like, man, that looks really good. I've never seen that before, right? So they're doing all things well at this point.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Our first best of 5 here is in the books as MVP Black moves on to the Grand Finals. Join us after the break, where we get a repeat of the Grand Finals from last year as Fnatic goes up against Ballistics.